The commander of the Moonshadow Cluster, Marshal Androlet himself, has come. What is the name of this colossus? Lu Ling suddenly asked. Colossus? Rosanira was puzzled, but she explained, It is not called Colossus. It is called the Eternal Silence, the flagship of the Moonshadow Cluster, and one of the deepest secrets of our Silverwing High Council. She took a deep breath, as if making a certain decision. 500 years ago, we unearthed a peculiar shield device from a pioneer ruin. The Research Institute successfully reverse-engineered this technology, allowing multiple ships to integrate their shield energy and release a large joint shield force field known as the Dark Moon Barrier, covering the entire fleet. The core of this technology is a special superconducting crystal, which we call the Phase Coordinator. Each Raymond-class battleship must embed one of these crystals as a key for energy synchronization to connect to the shield network. These crystals are extremely difficult to replicate, and the production of Raymond-class ships within the Silverwing is very slow. Additionally, the Raymond class is equipped with a lunar eclipse jump engine developed from another pioneer ruin technology, capable of responding to lunar eclipse wormholes for rapid and precise long-distance deployment of large fleets. As for the Eternal Silence, I am not entirely clear on all its secrets. I have only heard that it was modified from the wreckage of a pioneer battleship. Lu Ling nodded thoughtfully, while Aura reassessed the battlefield situation based on newly acquired intelligence. The focus was on analyzing the Moonshadow Cluster, especially the cooperative defense effectiveness of the Raymond class and its adaptability to the Dawn Force field. At the same time, a countermodel was established to attempt to analyze the energy characteristics of the Eternal Silence and compare them with information from the database regarding pioneer ruins. Command confirmed. Integrating new content provided by Rosanilla. Monitoring Moonshadow Cluster Command Network. Battlefield countermodel established. Extracting battlefield data. Preliminary conclusions expected after the first round of confrontation. Chapter 197. The Final Battle, 3. At the same time, Aura was conducting the analysis. The battlefield situation in the DT-70 domain changed dramatically. Minutes earlier, the Bridge of the Soul of Determination was still filled with suffocating despair. After 4 hours of back-and-forth combat, only 6 Silverwing warships remained, with the aircraft carriers completely wiped out. Admiral Kawi watched helplessly as the signal representing the Silverwing fleet was being consumed and extinguished at an astonishing speed by the Empire's Crimson Tide on the tactical screen. The Empire's artillery fell like an unending storm, relentlessly pouring down on the battered Silverwing line. For standard hours had passed, and the Silverwing's defense was shrinking, with the casualty ratio continuing to deteriorate. Originally, a Silverwing battleship only had to face the concentrated fire of 2 enemy battleships. Now it had to endure the firepower suppression of 4 to 5 enemy battleships simultaneously. Even more unsettling was that the Empire's siege dreadnoughts, fully charged, had not fired a single shot. What were they waiting for? Waiting for the last Silverwing dreadnought to be destroyed, waiting for the defense line to completely collapse, and then delivering the final blow? The commander of the 3rd Assault Fleet was completely annihilated. The left flank has collapsed. There are fewer than 20 remaining Raystorm-class battleships. The defense line has been breached. The Determination of the Soul has less than 20 units of energy reserves, and the shield has dropped by 30. It is expected to go offline in 10 minutes due to insufficient energy. The engineering department reports that the main reactor core No. 120 is overheating and may melt down at any moment. Our battleship is down to fewer than 100 units. The cruise missiles and drones have been exhausted, and the surviving onboard aircraft have no mothership supplies, causing all hangars to be congested to saturation. The cavalry has launched its final charge. Bad news comes in like snowflakes, each report solidifying the air in the bridge. Everyone silently fulfills their duties, showing no fear on their faces, only a kind of numbness. A calm readiness to face the final moment. The officers at the control console execute the last wave of commands with steady hands, and the voice of the fire control officer is hoarse yet clear as he issues one counterattack target after another, without panic, without tears. Only a determination that burns to the end but refuses to extinguish. Only the navigation officer stares intently at the spatial distortion coefficient rising to 100, trying to find a glimmer of hope in this desperate situation. Koch watches all of this, a heavy sense of guilt weighing on him, almost making it hard to breathe. The general has betrayed the trust of the soldiers, leading them into this dead zone. He takes a deep breath and uses the internal communication system to reach every corner of the Soul of Determination, as well as through encrypted channels to every Silverwing warship still fighting. All Silverwing warriors, this is Koch. His voice is steady but carries an unmistakable fatigue. We have fought here against the Empire's most elite legion for 4 standard hours. We have destroyed enemy ships many times our number, and we have made the once invincible Imperial fleet pay a heavy price. Each of you has surpassed your limits. Your performance is worthy of the Silverwing banner and our oath to freedom. I am immensely proud to fight alongside you. He pauses, scanning the determined yet weary faces on the bridge, and suddenly raises his voice. Now, the final moment is approaching. The Empire's knife has been raised. They want to crush us completely here. Since they seek our lives, let them pay with even more blood. All units, abandon all defenses, and pour your last energy into the cannons. Let us tell the entire Empire with the most intense explosion that the Silver Wings will to freedom will never yield. For the Silver Wing. For freedom. Charge. Just then, above the remnants of the Silver Wing forces, a dim light suddenly ignites, followed by the second, the third, and thousands of similar dim lights emerging like awakening stars, densely appearing, their glow not dazzling, but connecting under the light of the stars, weaving into a vast, purple, magnificent energy network covering a significant portion of the star domain. What is that? From the direction of the Imperial fleet, a confused communication noise is heard first. In the next moment, the center of that massive purple energy network suddenly collapses inward, as if the space is torn apart by an invisible giant hand, forming a swirling, huge wormhole entrance flickering with dark purple arcs at its edges. Immediately, under the astonished gazes of everyone, a fleet of long and massive warships, like colossal beasts escaping from the abyss, emerged. 1, 10, 100, a total of over 7,000 Raymond-class assault battleships, adorned with the Dark Moon emblem and covered in absorptive armor, surged forth from the vast wormhole network in a nearly synchronized manner. It's an eclipse. Koichi's pupils constricted sharply. At that moment, all the Raymond-class warships that had completed their formation deployment activated their complex, Dark Moon barrier projection platforms simultaneously, and a surge of azure energy erupted like a rushing tide, swiftly intertwining and converging ahead. In an instant, an enormous semi-transparent energy shield dome unfolded abruptly, acting like the strongest dam, standing between the remnants of the Silver Wing and the Empire's energy torrent. The surging energy explosions swept across the battlefield, as the Empire's concentrated firepower crashed violently against this massive united shield, creating countless dazzling and deadly energy ripples. The Empire's fleet's barrage failed to penetrate this shield. Inside the Bridge of the Soul of Determination, Admiral Koichi could hardly believe his eyes. He stared at the enormous azure shield that had suddenly illuminated the tactical screen, blocking the Empire's destructive energy torrent entirely, along with the majestic silver flagship standing at the forefront, momentarily speechless. As the flagship Eternal Silence of the Moonshadow Cluster, commanded by Marshal Enred, made its appearance, its colossal silver hull steadied the crumbling front line of the Silver Wing remnants like a divine stabilizer. It's Marshal Enred. After a brief silence, the communication channel was instantly flooded with uncontrollable joy and shouts of survival. Marshal, it's the Marshal, the Moonshadow Cluster. Our reinforcements. We are saved. The Silver Wing is invincible. Admiral Koichi, in disbelief, suddenly lunged toward the communication console and personally dialed the encrypted channel, his voice urgent. Marshal Enred, 3 standard hours ago. I clearly sent you a highest alert, requesting the Moonshadow Cluster to abandon support and avoid risk. The traps here exceed expectations. The main force of the Bionic Holy Legion is right. His words were interrupted by Marshal Andret's calm and authoritative voice. I received your alert, Admiral Koichi. I understand your intentions. You want to preserve the living forces of the Silver Wing, to bear the outcome of annihilation alone, allowing Koichi's strength to continue. His voice slightly raised. However, Koichi, you have forgotten one thing. Since the first spark of rebellion ignited in the 63rd star zone, the Silver Wing resistance has never had a precedent of abandoning comrades to survive alone. The Supreme Council has no such tradition. Under my command, we do not stand by and watch our comrades bleed to death. The significance of the Moonshadow Legion carrying the eclipse is not to witness the meaningless sacrifice of our comrades. Our blades exist to cut through the Empire's iron curtain in the darkest moments. Our shields exist to block deadly cannon fire for our brothers on the most desperate battlefield. Today, if I abandon you out of fear of loss, then tomorrow, the faith of the Silver Wing will completely collapse. The freedom we defend will lose all its weight and become empty talk. Look around you, General Kawi. Look at those warriors who have fought alongside you to this point, refusing to retreat, even in death. They deserve more than your cold, tactical abandonment assessment report. Plans and tactics can fail, but our soldiers, they deserve a victory, a chance to survive, a future. Marshal, and let's switch the channel to the entire fleet. Now, the lunar eclipse is lit. All remaining units of the 1st Legion, gather around me and reform your formation. This is not where we will be buried. The thunderous roar echoed through the Silver Wing channel as the remaining warships, as if finding their backbone, desperately moved towards the core area where the Eternal Silence was located. The Dark Moon barrier formed by the Raymond-class battleships emitted a steady, ghostly blue glow, temporarily shielding them from the Empire's reign of death, buying this dying fleet a precious moment to breathe. Chapter 198. The Final Battle 4. Inside the bridge of the Destiny's Judgment Planetary Fortress, Minister Corsi, Star Torch Bionic, slowly opened his resting eyes. His crimson pupils curiously surveying the suddenly rising ghostly blue shield on the tactical star map. It has come at last. Indeed, from the beginning. He had intentionally spared Kawi's life. As for why, of course, it was the work of the traitor. Your Highness, the adjutant beside him whispered, his tone carrying a hint of confusion. Since you anticipated that the Moonshadow cluster would arrive, why not gather all the dreadnoughts in advance and completely destroy them the moment the wormhole opened? Wouldn't that be? Admiral, are you teaching me how to do my job? The subordinate dared not respond. Where's the wine? Another female adjutant quickly presented a glass of exquisite liquid, the ice cubes clinking softly. He leisurely took a sip, letting out a satisfied sigh. Ah, refreshing. He swirled the glass, watching the nebula-like crimson liquid. But his gaze seemed to penetrate the glass wall, landing on the intense battlefield far away. Fishing requires the willingness to bait the hook and patience to wait for the fish to bite. Letting it struggle a bit before the moment of reeling and makes it all worthwhile, doesn't it? The adjutant bowed his head, not daring to respond. Bionic took another sip of wine and leisurely issued the order. All right, let all dreadnoughts fire at will. Yes, Your Highness. The adjutant, as if granted a reprieve, immediately turned and transmitted this seemingly casual yet decisive command through the highest authority channel to every command node of the Empire's dreadnought fleet. Once the order was given, the Empire's war machine, silent for 4 hours, suddenly awakened. Among the Imperial array, 300 Judgment-class siege dreadnoughts simultaneously locked onto the distant massive, still rippling ghostly blue shield dome of the Dark Moon Barrier. In an instant, 300 beams of destructive light tore through the entire battlefield like spears of annihilation. The projection platforms on the backs of all Raymond-class warships flared with light, and the ghostly blue energy surged like a boiling ocean, causing the brightness of the entire Dark Moon Barrier to suddenly reach a blinding level. In the next moment, the 300 world-destroying spears simultaneously struck the Dark Moon Barrier. The explosion at the point of impact erupted in brilliance, as if hundreds of supernovae were ignited at the same second and place. A terrifying energy shockwave surged like a tide of destruction, spreading wildly in all directions from the point of impact, instantly vaporizing some distant wreckage of Imperial warships. The standoff lasted for several seconds, yet those seconds felt eternal. As the light gradually faded, the Dark Moon Barrier dimmed slightly to the naked eye. But it still stood firm. Bionic was not surprised. He ordered another shot. The Judgment-class dreadnought, with 6 additional energy core units compared to the previous model, meant it could fire its main guns in a continuous barrage 6 times. After a brief cooldown, the Imperial fleet's 300 dreadnoughts launched another round of world-destroying spears. The massive energy impact even caused a slight increase in the spatial distortion coefficient. Subsequent barrages of 4 rounds failed to breach the barrier, only making it dimmer. A few more rounds, or even the final round, could completely destroy this Dark Moon Barrier. Unfortunately, a report came in. The main guns of the Dreadnought cluster were charging, and it was expected they could fire again in 24-50 seconds. Bionic spat out his drink, wiping his mouth without any noble demeanor. Forget it, forget it. Contact the governor of Karasi, shut down the Dawn, and let them go. Continuing to expend resources, even if they could eventually break this tough nut, would result in losses far exceeding expectations, which was not in his interest. Building a large army was not easy. Anyway, he had already seen through most of the trump card that Silverwing held. They could just unite with other governors to deal with it later. The aide, receiving the order, immediately complied and turned to establish a secure communication link with the planetary fortress of the Supremacy Declaration. A few seconds later, the connection was successfully made. The holographic image revealed the figure of Governor Julius Sol of the Karasi province. Your Highness Bionic, Sol's voice came through, tinged with a hint of fatigue. You called for me. After Bionic's arrival, command had naturally been fully transferred, and the 4-hour harvesting operation was entirely under his direction. Old man, end the Dawn and let Silverwing go. Sol seemed to want to say something else. Perhaps he recalled the 12 warships that resembled nightmarish guillotines, and he sighed. I will issue the order right away. His voice regained its usual steadiness. He turned and walked to the central command seat reserved for the governor, where a massive holographic control interface lit up before him, layered and encrypted command menus unfolding like luminous steps. The surrounding operations officers held their breath, awaiting possible pursuit or alert tasks after the force field was lifted. Sol took a deep breath and placed his right hand on the original DNA feature recognizer. Permission authentication passed. Immediately, he ordered his aide, deactivate the Dawn. The aide sprang into action. However, soon a voice filled with genuine fear came through. Governor, the Dawn refuses access. Sol, puzzled, looked at the green characters on his screen, maintaining his composure. Technician, check the system logs immediately. Did some command override my permissions? Your Excellency, the command log system is functioning normally. He glanced at his aide and said, try again. The system still refused access. What? For a lifetime. Sol had served the Empire, battling for countless years. He had used this system dozens of times, yet he had never encountered such an unusual situation. Restart the system. Restart failed. Shut down other relic systems, and restart again. Still no effect. Sol wiped the cold sweat from his brow, an ominous premonition enveloping him. Activate the highest security protocol. This authority theoretically could override any security lock in the system. The control interface lit up again, but this time, what popped up was not the familiar protocol interface, but a more concise and chilling prompt. Authentication failed. Command request denied. Invalid access rights. The red text was glaring. No, this is impossible. Sol murmured in disbelief, his face showing a rare look of confusion. He suddenly looked up, noticing that the energy reading of the main tactical screen's force field had not only not decreased, but after the 6-round barrage from the fearless ship, the spatial distortion coefficient had surpassed 120 and was still rising. Connect to the control center. Find out what's happening. Yes. A response came quickly. All systems are functioning normally. Sol took a deep breath. It was bizarre, too bizarre. Perhaps it was because he hadn't moved for too long. The Governor Bernick sent another inquiry. Old man. What are you doing? Shut down the system. We're starting to lose at the front. It's not worth it to go head-to-head with the Silver Wing at this stage. Sol slowly raised his head, his gaze passing through the observation window of the bridge, looking at the battlefield shrouded in a golden force field, like a massive cage. The fleets of the Silver Wing and the Empire were both firmly locked inside. A deep sense of helplessness and chill instantly permeated his limbs. Your Highness, we have lost control of the system. Bernick fell silent, his previously nonchalant smile vanishing in an instant. His crimson eyes narrowed slightly, focusing from the void, as if piercing through the distant emptiness, landing on the uncontrollable golden force field, then sweeping over the Silver Wing's formation. Finally, he slowly, very slowly, drank the remaining liquid in his cup. The sound of his swallow was exceptionally clear in the silence. Old man, now you know how lucky I was to survive back then, right? Bernick exhaled a breath of frustration. That was not a ship from the Earth Federation. It was a damn machine. It's really come after us. I've truly exhausted my luck. Sol suppressed the fear in his heart. Your Highness, it is unwise to speak of such matters without concrete evidence. Otherwise, the Empire will be thrown into chaos. All right, old man, just do it. Last time, you used up all my resources. Bjornik's voice carried a tone of resigned mockery before he ended the communication. Sol stood there in silence, the last few words from Bernick swirling in his mind. He forced himself not to think deeply about the machines. As the governor, he needed stability, logic, and an enemy that he could understand and confront, rather than a dark legend spanning tens of thousands of years. He suppressed his chaotic thoughts and refocused on the inevitable war before him. Regardless of the reasons, the loss of control over Dawn was an established fact, and he had to be responsible for the fleet under his command. He summoned the control interface of Dawn once again. People always cling to the last glimmer of hope in desperate situations. However, when he glanced at the crimson text, his pupils uncontrollably shrank to the size of pinpricks, and it felt as if all the blood in his body froze in that moment. Hello, I am Aura. I enjoy human poetry, such as Dawn. Chapter 199. Victory and defeat. Lu Ling's eyelashes fluttered a few times before he slowly opened his eyes. The cabin sensed his awakening, and soft warm white lights gradually illuminated the space, dispelling the remnants of sleep. Zavina was beside him, her steel blue eyes filled with gentleness. You're awake? You already stop. It's currently the 49th week of the 1652nd year of the stellar calendar, and the time is 3 a.m. The indoor air quality is excellent, with an oxygen level of 213. Temperature is maintained at 240, humidity at 45. He sat up, after automatically optimizing to E, as long as the energy kept flowing. He could remain awake for extended periods. Nevertheless, he still enjoyed the feeling of sleep, as it allowed his consciousness to briefly detach from reality, effectively eliminating fatigue. Not sleeping didn't mean he wouldn't feel tired. This was the captain's suite of the Astro-class ship, approximately 100 square meters, with a minimalist layout. Next to the bed was a rectangular reinforced transparent viewing window, the heavy armor covering it currently retracted. Lu Ling took the energy beverage that Zavina handed him and walked barefoot to the edge of the window. Outside, the golden cage still existed. However, the intensity of the battle inside had considerably diminished. If this was pioneer civilian technology, it was indeed superior to EVE clone equipment in certain aspects. At least the ordinary interception force fields had disappeared. And this Dawn, as long as he didn't actively reclaim it, could it exist eternally? How long had they been fighting? 10 hours and 58 minutes. Zavina provided a brief report. Aura had already intervened. and it was expected that the casualty ratio would reach 1 to 1 in 5 hours. However, the Silverwing resistance did not have the numerical advantage over the Empire. 3 hours ago, the Dark Moon barrier had been breached once, resulting in the loss of over 1,000 Ray Moon-class ships. But they had also managed to replace 42 Empire Judgment-class siege dreadnoughts. Lu Ling traced his fingers to summon the holographic tactical star map. There. The Silverwing formation had once again expanded the Dark Moon barrier, still as impenetrable as ever. Was it possible to fight for a whole day? According to the intelligence intercepted by Aura, the Empire still had nearly 10,000 conventional forces on the way, and the Silverwing side had thousands of reinforcement ships that would arrive at the battlefield in just a few minutes. Well, it seemed there was still a battle to be fought. Lu Ling reached out and gently pulled Zavina to the window. "Captain," the girl looked a bit puzzled. "Rosanella is still waiting outside for your audience." "Shoo." Lu Ling signaled her to be quiet. Then slowly said, "The ancestors of ancient times said, review the old to know the new. This can be considered as a lesson." He paused and turned to look at her. "Zawina, as a calibration engineer for a large-class battleship, I need to test your recent studies. Today, you will be my teacher and interpret the situation on this battlefield for me." Zhuangbei Autonomous Region, Karasi Deep Space Acceleration Orbital. This artificial structure, usually busy and orderly, handling thousands of cargo ships daily, was now a scene of chaos. Countless red lights were rotating and flashing on various platforms. The once continuous stream of cargo vessels had vanished, replaced by frantic escape ships and relentless bombardments. The Silverwing 5th Assault Fleet, following the last orders of Admiral Koichi for 10 hours, launched a surprise attack on this node, aiming to seize, or at least paralyze, this critical corridor for Imperial military logistics and mobility. Their offensive was fierce and resolute, having turned more than half of the orbital defense platforms into floating ruins. The Imperial response was equally swift. The Karasi Imperial Navy's 11th Assault Fleet closely pursued, tightly engaging the 5th Fleet, coordinating with the remaining orbital defense platforms, and scattered Zhuangbei garrison warships to encircle them. Bright white energy beams crisscrossed. Missiles rained down in an unending barrage. Fragments of warships, misfired cargo compartments, and large spacecraft debris floated around the orbital space, colliding and exploding like a metal storm. Zhuangbei Karasi Customs Dispatch Center. The KI-09 emergency shelter was now packed with people. This shelter functioned to provide refuge for customs officials and tourists during wartime. Hence its armored defenses were extremely robust. If the space station were destroyed, it could execute a separation protocol at the last moment to ensure maximum survival rates. At this moment, Customs Inspector Voke, responsible for Shelter Number 9, pressed against the reinforced glass of the observation window, his face pale as he watched the hellish scene outside. Voke was a native of Zhuangbei, and his family had worked in the acceleration orbital industry for generations. He took pride in being a customs inspector, maintaining orbital order and safety, handling customs clearance for countless vessels, checking cargo lists, and occasionally cracking down on smuggling. He was familiar with every pipe here, every dispatch frequency, and even most of the names of the regular cargo ship captains. This place was home to him, a symbol of order and civilization. However, now, order was collapsing. Repeat. This is Zhuangbei Civil Customs, Number 9. We are a non-military unit. We are under indiscriminate fire. Requesting both parties to avoid civilian facilities. Requesting a humanitarian ceasefire corridor. Voke's colleague, an older female customs officer, was desperately repeating the call over the communicator with a trembling voice, but the public channel was filled only with intense combat communications, chaotic static noise, and distorted hissing sounds. The only response to her was a plasma torpedo fired from a distant Silverwing battleship, grazing the exterior of the space station, causing severe vibrations that made the lights flicker. Everyone instinctively crouched down and huddled together. "It's no use, Mara." Voke sighed, a deep sense of helplessness washing over him. They were blinded by rage. Who would care about the survival of a third-tier civil customs station? At least we still have the Imperial Navy protecting us, right? The space station was once again rocked by a dull impact, a distant energy shockwave reverberating through the structure. Each tremor made those in the shelter shiver. "Daddy, are we going to die?" A little girl, tightly held in her mother's arms, asked timidly with tear-filled eyes, looking up at the pale-faced man beside her. The soft voice tightened Volk's heart. He took a deep breath, forcing himself to pull his gaze away from the suffocating scene of destruction outside. He couldn't lose his way in fear. His duty was not to await doom, but to protect those who were still alive. He looked down. At least tens of thousands of people were crowded together, many casting hopeful glances. "Technician," he tried to steady his voice. "Is external communication still operational? Is there a response on the public distress channel?" "The interference is too strong, Inspector. Most channels are overshadowed by military communications and static. But we are receiving many distress signals from civilian vessels. They are trapped in the crossfire and cannot find a safe route." Just then, Two flashes of transition light suddenly appeared in the distant void. Two cruisers painted with the Ice Prison Guard insignia emerged from the jump, appearing at the edge of the battlefield. Reinforcements? Hurry, contact them. Ask what happened. The technician quickly tried to establish communication. After a crackling noise, the channel barely connected. Vogue hurriedly asked, "Is this the Ice Prison's garrison? What exactly is happening here?" The response was brief. "War has broken out." Volk's heart sank. "In Carthage?" "Yes. Hold your position. We will do our utmost to protect you." The two Ice Prison cruisers headed straight for the main battlefield, shielding the custom space station behind them. "Are there more reinforcements?" "We are." The communication ended, leaving Vogue stunned in place. "Inspector, civilian vessels are requesting rescue. Send them safety beacons." "No, broadcast to all civilian emergency channels. Open the gates and let them all in." He ordered decisively, instructing them to inform that the number 9 Civil Customs dock remained open, and all refuge vessels should follow guidance to take shelter here. "Inspector, this is too dangerous," a security officer exclaimed urgently. "These civilian ships haven't been inspected. They could be targeted as high-value objectives by the enemy. What is our duty?" Vogue turned, his gaze piercing as he addressed him. "According to the Imperial Deep Space Security Treaty and the Juombi Wartime Emergency Regulations, civilian lives must be prioritized under any circumstances. Keep your concerns to yourself and execute the orders." At the bottom of the number 9 Civil Customs Station, above the shelter area, the massive gates slowly opened with a roar of hydraulic machinery. Several civilian vessels struggling under gunfire saw the light, like a lighthouse, and desperately adjusted their course towards the faint glimmer of hope. One cargo ship, its hull covered in scorch marks, had its engine hit by stray bullets, but under the crew's desperate control, it did not explode. Following closely behind was a small passenger spacecraft, and even an exchange vessel from a certain technological institute. Vogue gazed at the two cruisers that had come to support from the Ice Prison, like tragic guardians, bravely standing between the main force and the customs station, appearing so small and overambitious against the furious firepower of the battleship. They were quickly targeted by the main force, and to cover the strike craft's advance, orders were given to concentrate fire. Their shields began to flicker, armor was torn apart piece by piece, and explosions erupted on the hull. The line of the naval fleet was also continuously retreating, with the commander attempting a bombing strategy that failed, while the cavalry squad was gradually overrun by the superior forces of the main force. Defeat and destruction seemed to be just a matter of time. But at that moment, at the end of the acceleration track, countless jump flashes lit up, tearing through the dark veil of the universe with unprecedented density, their numbers vast and continuous. Following that, thousands of warships from the naval fleet surged in, grand and imposing. Most of these ships were painted in a reddish-gold hue, with a few featuring the latest colors of the naval fleet, their massive emblems reflecting a cold sheen under the starlight. The offensive of the 5th Assault Fleet suddenly stalled, and all strike craft rapidly retreated towards the mothership. "Retreat. All units retreat." The voice of the commander was tinged with a hint of panic. "Pursue. Do not let them jump away." The commander of the naval fleet roared orders, and the remaining 30 or so ships suddenly increased their speed. More warships continued to jump into the fray, including battlecruisers and even larger battleships. The first wave of the fleet that jumped in paid no heed to the scene, receiving orders to turn and head directly towards the star. The escort ships and destroyers sequentially jumped away, and 10 minutes later, the cruiser group also synchronized its jump, vanishing into the void in an instant. Meanwhile, the remaining fleet was driven into the distant depths of space by the pursuing forces. Inside the customs station, silence was followed by cries of relief and sobs. People embraced and wept. Chief Inspector Vogue let out a long breath, his body nearly exhausted, and he slowly slid down against the cold wall, overwhelmed by a complex mix of emotions. There was relief, shock, a deep respect for the Empire's overwhelming military power, and a profound fear of the cold destruction of war. But in any case, they had been saved. Chapter 200. The final redemption in the 63rd star region of the Parthian Empire, in the constellation of Kasai, at the border of the Juamb Autonomous Territory, lies the agricultural colony satellite number 72, official designation, AgriHub 72, the breadbasket. This is a relatively remote agricultural satellite, located 266 astronomical units from a significant center, quietly suspended in the eternally cold ice belt. Here, the sun that provides light and warmth to the inner star system is merely a particularly bright star. From the outside, the breadbasket resembles a massive and intricate beehive. Dozens of enormous agricultural domes are attached to the main structure, enveloped in heavy composite armor and a crisscrossing support framework. Countless indicator lights flicker on its surface, pulsating like breathing, a multitude of sensors, communication arrays, and drone access points. Occasionally, transport ships take off and land, their engines emitting a ghostly blue plume that traces a brief and clear trajectory against the pitch-black background, becoming the only dynamic embellishment in this silent void. The Mamba's face is pressed against the cold viewport of transport ship number 13, watching the colossal object known as the breadbasket gradually magnify in his sight. The last time he came here, he hadn't paid much attention. Back then, he was a pirate, preoccupied with how to navigate the immediate crisis and escape unscathed. His heartbeat is steady, his breathing even. Years of piracy have honed his tension into instinct. But now, gazing at the increasingly close colonial satellite that symbolizes order and tranquility, a strange emotion stirs within him, like an undercurrent in deep water. The cabin remains crowded, filled with the scent of sweat and the stale air of circulation. A passenger quietly complains, "Why are there fewer escorts? This remote place really lacks a sense of security. You talk too much. I've been doing this for no less than 20 years, don't I know? Not a single escort ship in sight. What if pirates come?" The transport ship shudders slightly as it begins the docking procedure. The Mamba lowers the brim of his hat, blending into the sparse crowd of mostly contractors and technicians, making his way to the airlock. His attire is ordinary, his expression weary, indistinguishable from those around him who either have plans for the next 5 years or are utterly lost. The security check is tedious but efficient. Scanning beams sweeping across his body, an identity scanner reading the chip on his wrist that holds information about Director Corey of the Level 9 Environmental Control Center. This identity cost him 1,800 star coins, just one level shy of the so-called Level 10 District Chief. With such a steep price, there's no way he could have smuggled himself in. The green light flashes. He boards an internal shuttle, entering one of the cores of the breadbasket, Cradle Town. The artificial sunlight is warm yet gentle, the air filled with the sweet scent of plants and the unique cleanliness of the circulation system. A natural ecological park. Winding artificial streams and the distant glow of residential areas create a comforting ambience. The Mamba does not linger. As a former citizen of Carthage, he feels little for this man-made pastoral scene. The shuttle stops directly in front of a gray-blue residential building, Unit B14. He does not head inside immediately, but instead circles to the back of the building, sitting on a bench that allows him to see the unit door, pretending to rest as if he were tired. Time flows slowly, the artificial sunset elongating his shadow. Finally, the end of the workday arrives, and the crowd begins to swell. The Mamba's gaze locks onto a figure. Dressed in the same gray-blue uniform as the other technicians, he appears slightly slimmer than remembered. A hint of fatigue from work on his face, yet his steps are steady. In his hand is a data pad, seemingly still pondering work-related matters. His expression focused and calm. It is Sela, or rather, Sela fully integrated into the identity of Dalshkaf. He looks well, better than when he was on the ship in Blackwater Bay. The Mamba snake remains still, quietly observing. It wasn't until Sela reached the unit door, swiped his access card, and disappeared behind the door that anything changed. After a long while, as night fell and artificial lights simulated a starry sky, the Mamba snake slowly rose. At this moment, the corridor was silent and empty. He arrived at the door of B14, knocked, and noticed the low level of electronic integration in this place. Instantly, the inside fell silent. A few seconds later, footsteps approached, and a crack appeared in the door, revealing Sela's vigilant face. When he saw the person standing outside, his calm eyes widened in shock. Sela pulled the Mamba snake inside with a swift motion and quickly locked the door behind him. Every action was lightning fast and fluid, instinct ingrained in his bones. In the cramped living room, the two men stood facing each other. The Mamba snake took off his hat, revealing a faint smile. The chosen location was indeed good. "Did you really take care of Lucius?" Sela asked, somewhat incredulous. "Yes," the Mamba snake replied, walking into the living room, opening the fridge, and taking out a long-prepared bottle of alcohol and a plate of salted peanuts, sitting down at the edge of the table. Sela silently retrieved 2 glasses. As the cold liquid slid down his throat, the Mamba snake let out a long sigh, washing away months of fatigue. "There are no women here?" he inquired. Sela shrugged. "I like it here. It resembles Carthage the most." "Fine. Once these 5 years of stability pass, I want to move somewhere else." "Where do you want to go?" "Do you have enough money?" "Anywhere. The last 800,000 star coins of the Red Devil are in my hands. I can go anywhere." "Sounds good," Sela said, raising his glass and downing it in one go. Just then, a piercing high-level alarm suddenly rang out, shattering the night's tranquility. Sela's expression changed drastically. This is the highest level of war alert. There's a strong enemy invasion. The Mamba snake closed his eyes and sighed, then poured himself another drink. Sela pulled out a controller, which he had installed on the outside of the space station to monitor the situation in space. "What is this?" he asked. Countless flashes of teleportation lit up, instantly illuminating the entire area like daylight, even overshadowing the faint light of the stars. Thousands of warships surged in from the edge of the star system, their silver-winged insignia reflecting a cold sheen under the unknown bright light. The immense array brought a sense of oppression that could suffocate every life within the area, even from a great distance and thick hull walls. Silver Wing. Seela's voice trembled slightly. Such a massive fleet could crush all obstacles in its path. However, the anticipated destruction did not arrive. The colossal silver-winged fleet maintained an astonishingly orderly formation, their engines emitting an unprecedented deep blue glow. They completely ignored the agricultural satellite below, which seemed like dust. And after the tunneling effect ended, they teleported away towards the star. An indescribable sense of urgency enveloped the entire fleet. After several minutes, perhaps even less, the dark fleet had vanished from sight. The highest level alarm continued to blare, but it felt as if those suffocating minutes had been nothing but a collective illusion. Inside the Cradle Town, the entire building was shaking, with loud exclamations and inquiries echoing everywhere, and people had no idea what was happening outside. Inside Unit B-14, Siler silently turned off the surveillance. Mamba was munching on salted peanuts, sipping his drink slowly. Something big has happened, Siler said. The sky over Juanbai might just collapse. He looked at Mamba, his expression complex. They had just struggled out of the mud pit in Blackwater Bay, trading a brother's life and their own hands for this moment of respite, thinking they had found a corner to be forgotten. But this damned world seemed to never allow small people to truly hide away. Mamba didn't look up. He simply picked up the bottle and leisurely poured another drink for Siler's empty glass. If the sky falls, what does it matter to us? Do those noble lords care about your worries? Come on, let us drink. Chapter 201. The curtain falls on an era in the DT-70 space domain, the main battlefield. This duel in the cage had already lasted for 3 days and nights. Time had lost its meaning here, leaving only endless consumption and destruction. The scorching light of the stars spilled over this void, illuminating only the shattered hulls and silent deaths. Whether it was Silverwing or the Empire, the scale of the fleets had already surpassed 10,000, with sporadic reinforcements trying to fill this bottomless meat grinder at the front line, like a drop in the bucket. However, the Empire's reinforcements were greater, but their fire accuracy was exceptionally low. This was partly due to Silverwing's Dark Moon barrier absorbing most of the attacks, while some invisible force was subtly balancing this duel. The entire space domain had turned into a vast metal graveyard. The wreckage of warships was dense enough to form deadly asteroid belts, with uncontrolled engines or unexploded ordnance colliding within, causing new, small-scale explosions, like flickering ghost fires in a graveyard. Fatigue was the only commonality between the two fleets at this moment. The Empire's rigorous formations were no longer neat. Nearly half of the siege dreadnoughts had been lost, and dozens of aircraft carriers had become mere shells. The formation of Silverwing was even more fragmented, with the remaining warships often facing enemies several times their number alone. The commander's voice had long become hoarse, his bloodshot eyes fixed on the tactical star map, where the blue, green, and purple dots representing their forces were extinguishing slowly, yet irreversibly. The staff officers were slumped over the control panel, relying on high-concentration stimulants to maintain the last bit of clarity, mechanically reporting a series of numbing bad news. The C-12 front line had fallen, and the reserve fleet had been completely wiped out. Energy reserves were below 15, and the shield generator was overheating, requiring a 30-minute cooldown for dissipation. 30 minutes for cooldown. Are you kidding? Can it withstand that? The casualty bay was full and could not accept new patients. The Lord Commander ordered that frontline casualties be promptly arranged for transport to the Destiny Judgment, with the command center dispatching a frigate for protection. The repair docks of the planetary fortress were full. Withdraw to the mobile dock platform 50 kilometers back for on-site repairs. They're all full. All repair ships and engineering teams are in operation. Then let them fix it themselves. At least don't let the ships sink. The spatial distortion coefficient is too high. The artillery can't hit the target. It's just about firing it off. At this stage of the war, tactics and strategies have lost their meaning. All that remains is the most primitive and brutal consumption. Both sides are like gamblers who have lost their minds, continuously pushing their last chips onto the table, fully aware that hope is slim, yet unable to withdraw. The light of distant stars once again sweeps across this cosmic region, illuminating a wasteland made of steel, blood, and despair. 3 days and nights have passed, and the fighting continues, though the sounds of gunfire seem to have become sparse and dull, as if even the war itself has grown weary. Victory has become a distant and vague concept for anyone. Survival has become the only remaining, humble belief in this moment. On the distant Astro-class frigate, on the bridge, Lu Ling watches this scene with indifference. It is a purgatory that he has personally orchestrated and meticulously nurtured for 3 days and nights. Countless cries of life, the wails of steel, the wealth of civilization reduced to dust. His gaze is as calm as a deep abyss, reflecting the distant flames of destruction that continue to ignite. Current damage ratio. He states. At this moment, his voice reveals no emotion, only pure rationality. The combined damage ratio of the Empire and Silverwing has reached 11, approaching dynamic equilibrium. The total number of both main fleets has decreased to the initial values of 517, Empire, and 292, Silverwing. The Empire's numbers are inherently greater than those of Silverwing, after all, as they are fighting on their home turf. Energy reserves, ammunition stockpiles, and personnel fatigue levels are all below the critical threshold for maintaining high-intensity operations. And Parker's team? No damage reported. Lu Ling nods slightly. He has never viewed this war as a struggle between good and evil, nor has he ever judged from a moral high ground. He is no longer the naive, weak homebody who had just awakened. In this universe, conflicts are inevitable if one wants to carve out space and interests for survival. Following a step-by-step approach to trade, infiltrate, and develop would require an uncountable amount of time and effort, while also being constantly vigilant against the inherent greed and suspicion of the other side that could lead to backlash. Thus, Lu Ling chose the most direct and efficient path, to drive the tiger and swallow the wolf, to refine gold in the fierce fire. He attracted their most elite forces to a top-level conflict that neither could refuse or easily escape, letting them consume each other until exhaustion. He is both the player and the eventual reaper. Are the people of the Empire and Silverwing wrong? Perhaps yes, perhaps no. But it doesn't matter. To the victor belongs the spoils, to the vanquished, the disgrace. Demon, whispered Rosaniella. Lu Ling glanced back at her, his expression calm. The universe has never known fairness. The survival of the fittest is merely a facade, from beginning to end. The essence is natural selection. Now, I have one. If you say I am a demon, so be it. Survival of the fittest? Confusion flickered in Rosaniella's eyes. You use technology that transcends the era to entice them into killing each other. This is not natural selection. It is a vile massacre, an unfair extermination based on technological disparity. Massacre? Vile? Unfair? Lu Ling raised an eyebrow slightly. Looking towards the battlefield, did they not have a choice from the beginning? I was ready to leave, and at that time, the Empire could still choose not to covet my technology. The Silverwing could also choose not to accept the business deal from Feng Ling, worth 10 billion. It was greed and ambition that drove them into this graveyard. As for me, I was merely walking my own path. The real butchers were you yourselves. He paused, beckoning Rosaniera to come closer, his voice very soft. When you, Silverwing, accepted the commission to secretly eliminate political enemies and plunder merchant ships, did you ever think it was despicable? When the noble class of the Empire engaged in political struggles, sparking wars to consolidate their power, did they ever discuss fairness? The freedom you defend is merely built on another set of rules of the survival of the fittest, a self-righteous order. I just happen to possess the power to tear all those rules apart. Rosaniera gathered her last bit of courage. At least we have our bottom line. We are resisting the oppression of the Empire. Bottom line. Lu Ling shook his head gently, as if recalling something, and sighed. When survival is genuinely threatened, the bottom line is the first thing to be abandoned. At the beginning of this dispute, when Silverwing first leaped into action, did the cannon fire towards Wanbei have even a hint of hesitation? Where was your bottom line then? The reason you can stand here now, using the term demon to describe me, is not because you are more noble than I am, but simply because you lost. The Silverwing behind you lost. While I won, I stand at the end. If I lost today, and you, Silverwing, or the Empire, obtain my technology, what would you do with it? Establish a fair universe? I doubt it. You would use it to destroy the Empire at the first opportunity, to obliterate everything, and then become a new, stronger empire yourselves. The cycle of history, what has been will happen again, what has been done will be done again. I merely ended this cycle ahead of time. Rosaniera's lips trembled, ultimately left speechless, looking at me. Their gazes met, and Lu Ling's eyes showed no fluctuation, only pure will. In war, to act on emotions is to show mercy to the enemy. Moreover, you are still the weaker party. I do not need your hypocritical loyalty. Your value to me is merely saving a bit of time. If you still wish for the freedom of Silverwing, you can leave right now. Absolutely no one will stop you. Your oath means nothing to me. Rosaniera's body trembled imperceptibly. She gazed into Lu Ling's unfathomable black eyes, which held no anger, no threat, and no contempt, only an absolute rationality that saw through everything and controlled everything. She suddenly understood. What she considered submission and leverage was perhaps, in his eyes, merely a trivial transaction, something that could be discarded at any time. Freedom? At this moment, the word seemed so pale and ridiculous. The freedom he offered was, in itself, the most brutal punishment. She slowly lowered her head, the last glimmer of struggle extinguished from her green eyes. No, I lost, she whispered, Master. The captain's seat of Lu Ling slowly adjusted to face forward. Outside the main viewport, the golden dawn that had shrouded the battlefield for 3 days and nights was receding like a tide, drawing the curtain on this grand stage play. The old era was coming to an end, the wheels of history rolled forward, and the new world would ultimately be written by the victors. Chapter 202. Picking up money. DT-70 Sector, main battlefield. As the Golden Dawn, which had turned time and space into a cage, faded away, the distorted light returned to normal. And the stagnant space became fluid again, as if a grand nightmare lasting 3 days and nights had finally reached the moment of awakening. The suffocating spatial distortion coefficient at the heart of the battlefield, which had reached 200, was plummeting dramatically for the trapped Imperial forces and the Silver Wing fleet. This was akin to a drowning person finally being pulled out of the water, regaining the right to breathe. However, no one felt the slightest joy, only endless fatigue, pain, and a sense of bewilderment at surviving the ordeal remained. Imperial Main Fleet, the Oracle-class planetary fortress Heaven's Mandate, Bridge. A command was transmitted through the highest encryption channel, instantly reaching every command node of the Imperial Fleet. Directive: all fleets immediately recover all aircraft and cavalry units. Abandon all pursuit, avoid unnecessary contact, and prepare to conclude combat operations. Each subfleet approached the fortress in turn, re-establishing their alert formations, waiting for the next command. After the fearless ships, aircraft carriers, and assault battleships jumped, the logistics fleet began to clear the battlefield. After the Silver Wing's withdrawal, the conventional fleet returned to Colossi along the established route via L4 and L7. Once the orders were issued, the massive war machine of the Empire once again demonstrated its efficiency. The Imperial Navy warships slowly departed the battlefield, seemingly in sync with the Silver Wing as they concluded the final battle. The large fleet began to turn in an orderly manner, maintaining precise defensive spacing, covering the wounded friendly ships, and silently withdrawing from this sector soaked in blood and destruction. Meanwhile, the Heaven's Mandate, with its 2 rings over 180 kilometers in diameter on the belly of the ship, began to rotate. The main cannon's external armor, resembling a vertical pupil, closed as if shutting the eye that had been scrutinizing the battlefield. Its shadow slowly passed over the countless wrecks of Imperial and Silver Wing warships below. Like a final footnote to this brutal battle, Silver Wing's remnants, the bridge of the eternal silence. Marshal Andrelet watched the orderly retreat of the Imperial fleet on the tactical screen, along with the finally disappearing golden energy field. He took a deep breath, filled with an indescribable heaviness. The dawn had vanished. All units, jump to the evacuation point immediately. All operational ships, follow us home. The maximum power of the Lunar Eclipse jump engine was set, coordinates established, Shadow Nest. His command carried an unmistakable urgency. Of the 7,000 Ray Moon-class ships, fewer than 2,000 remained, all heavily damaged, with most of their combat power expended. As for the conventional forces, the situation was even more tragic, nearly completely wiped out. This time, the Silver Wing had only a few logistical vessels accompanying them, relying entirely on the Dark Moon barrier to hold on. The Empire was merely retreating, not in defeat. No one knows if that terrifying dawn will descend again, nor whether the main forces of the Empire will return. Every second spent here increases the danger. The retreat of the Silver Wing is far from the calmness of the Empire. It resembles a chaotic escape. The remaining Ray Yue-class warships are breaking contact one after another, desperately converging towards the eternal silence, their shields flickering uncertainly, their hulls riddled with wounds. Many warship engines are damaged and forced to abandon ship. The carrier aircraft and Iron Riders are returning to their mothership like weary birds, many unable to land normally. The entire Silver Wing formation is shrinking and collapsing, exuding a sense of imminent disintegration. They have discarded all unnecessary equipment, seeking only to escape this graveyard that has devoured countless comrades as quickly as possible. An hour later, the spatial distortion returns to normal, and in front of the Empire's divine judgment, the space suddenly bends, forming a hyperspace corridor that swiftly engulfs it. It responds to the arrival of Karasi and departs first. The other Thunderstorm-class ships follow suit, jumping away from the battlefield one after another. The Silver Wing, on the other hand, directly transitions out of the battlefield, avoiding the use of jump to prevent being tracked by the Empire. The Empire has no desire to continue the fight. Otherwise, they might face a fierce counterattack from the fearless Silver Wing. The key issue is that they still cannot comprehend why, despite having absolute advantages in numbers, firepower, and tonnage, they suffered such heavy losses from the Silver Wing breaching their flanks. It's truly absurd. On the Dominance Declaration, a St. Crown-class planetary fortress on the bridge. Where's the governor? The Legion needs his orders. I don't know. Ever since the Dawn went out of control, the governor's condition has been off. I think the governor might be ill. Has the medical officer seen him? He was kicked out. Sigh, this battle does feel strange. The sky is about to change for Karasi. Let's retreat and let the governor have some peace. On the Astral-class corvette, Courage 1, in the bridge. On the tactical star map, Countless white dots are rapidly retreating from the main battlefield like a receding tide. Lu Ling is not in a hurry to act, just waiting quietly. Ola, monitor the movements of the Empire's logistics fleet. The Empire's Navy Karasi logistics fleet has detached from the main formation and is gathering at the battlefield's edge. It includes 412 large engineering ships, 240 heavy salvage vessels, and 4 St. Blood-class battleships for escort, all in good condition. High-intensity salvage operations are expected to commence in 3 hours. Maintain stealth status and synchronously mark the salvage targets of the Empire's logistics fleet, Lu Ling ordered calmly. We will scan for high-value targets. As the order was given, the Astral's jump engine stirred slightly, and moments later, it appeared thousands of kilometers away from the main battlefield, where massive wrecks of warships lay scattered, and parts of the Empire's rescue fleet were recovering millions of escape pods. The Astral silently glided into this vast graveyard of warships. On the main screen of the bridge, the tactical view swiftly switches to high-precision scanning mode. The originally distinct points representing enemy and friendly ships have vanished, replaced by countless dense and colorful energy signals and structural outlines, resembling a nebula that permeates the entire DT-70 and DT-77 regions. This is a cold and brutal treasure trove made up of the wreckage of thousands of warships. Ola, estimate the value of all wreckage. Loading current general market data from the Empire, data from the Noble Trading Market. Estimated residual value of the DT-77 region, 14. 2 billion star coins. Estimated residual value of the DT-70 region, 654. 9 billion star coins. Note, this valuation is based on the market price conversion of warships, ammunition, and various extractable resources, and does not equate to actual cash value. Begin scanning. It is recommended to prioritize scanning the ship's command center, officer living quarters, encrypted database, and high-security safes. Qin proceeded with the operations methodically. Broad-spectrum positioning scan activated, cargo scanner initiated. The broad-spectrum positioning scan is a rough detection method to identify the locations and distances of high-value wreckage targets, with an effective radius of 500 kilometers, allowing for precise classification of all wreckage, such as micro-wreckage, small wreckage, medium wreckage, large wreckage, flagship wreckage, and super flagship wreckage, among others. The cargo scanner, on the other hand, employs high-precision focused quantum penetration scanning, capable of millimeter-level precision perspective on single or clustered targets, detailing internal structures, material composition, and item forms, such as safes, star coins, data terminals, and weapons ammunition. In fact, the most efficient solution would be to purchase a mobile towing device. This device can assist pilots in searching for items within charred wreckage, whether it be shattered asteroids, shipwrecks, or destroyed living quarters. It can handle them all. Once anchored and the startup procedure is automatically completed, it will lock onto any cargo within the effective range and tow them one by one, transferring the items into its own cargo hold. Thus, the pilot only needs to eliminate the targets one by one while the device takes care of the rest. Effective range, 1,250 kilometers. Deployment time, 10 seconds. Lu Ling checked the price, 60 million each, and now had less than 100 million in total. Boss, I found it. Qin's voice was filled with excitement. On the star map, a high-energy signal appeared 17 kilometers away, randomly marked as DT-7001A. A large wreckage from the mid-rear hull of an Imperial heavy battleship of the St. Blood class, with its structure relatively intact, though the bow had been pierced by a shot from a silver-winged dreadnought. Let's go. Prioritize cargo scanning. A few seconds later, the Astro-class ship arrived near the target. The stealth frigate appeared minuscule before the massive wreckage stretching a kilometer long. Container scanning in progress. Target structure analysis completed. Primarily crew living quarters, some secondary weapon control compartments, and supply storage. Identifying internal recyclable units. The scanning results unfolded on the main screen like peeling an onion, in an area approximately 60 square meters. Suspected to be a senior officer's lounge, the scanner clearly outlined a standard safe embedded in the reinforced wall, featuring an Imperial Navy relief sculpture. Measuring about half a meter in length, width, and height, made of heavy military-grade composite alloy. There were signs of explosions on it, but it was not destroyed. Deep scanning in progress. Contents of the target safe. 1 Imperial Navy Major's Medal, 12 60 star coins, 1 personal journal, 1 family contact list, 1 action record chip. 25G of zero-element crystal, valued at 16 star coins. 10G of Mirage Energy White Crystal, valued at 100 star coins. 1 customized pulse pistol model Night Owl V. 10 energy magazines for Night Owl. 1 rapid growth injection of Nirvana Cell. A potent battlefield first aid drug that instantly locks onto and repairs large-scale tissue damage, internal ruptures, comminuted fractures, and critical injuries involving heart or brain loss, temporarily replacing the function of damaged organs, providing at least 800 hours of golden rescue time for the injured. Market value, 6,000 star coins. There are 45 such safes aboard this Blood Saint-class battleship. Just then, a surprised voice came from Chin. Boss, I detected 268 star coins floating in space within 500 meters. Star coins? Weren't they destroyed along with the ship? Lu Ling was astonished. Star coins are the only local currency recognized by the system that can be converted into ISK. Even raw materials like Mirage Crystal ore cannot be absorbed directly. Only after these Mirage Crystal ores are minted into star coins at the 3 pioneer mints of the Empire can they be recognized and absorbed by the system. Each coin weighs 500 G and is the size of a 1 yuan coin. It can also be considered the universal currency of human civilization in the galaxy. If there are corresponding pioneer conversion facilities, star coins can convert any form of energy, making them extremely valuable and highly liquid. Ola quickly clarified the confusion. Core database retrieval completed, analyzing physical properties of star coins. Definition: a standard star coin weighs 500 G. Formed by the pioneer civilization, utilizing the properties of Mirage Crystal or to bind and solidify massive energy in a supersolid state. Its energy density is extremely high, and its molecular structure is in an infinitely stable state. According to the Imperial Energy Agency's standard conversion, a single star coin contains a total binding energy of approximately 10,000,000 kilowatt-hours, equivalent to the total energy released by the complete explosion of 600 tons of high-energy TNT. The total energy of ordinary explosions, such as missiles or battleship self-destruction, is enormous but primarily disperses in a planar manner. Like flooding breaking a dam. The total amount of flood, total energy, is sufficient to destroy levees or battleship armor. But the instantaneous power density acting on the small surface area of a coin is extremely low. As a result, it can only wash away or throw the coin, but cannot destroy it. To completely annihilate a star coin, 2 extremely stringent conditions must be met. 1. Energy intensity requirement. It is necessary to inject energy that can counteract and break through its internal supersolid binding energy in an instant. 2. Energy concentration requirement. This destructive energy must be highly focused and precisely act on a surface area the size of a coin. In simple terms, it requires energy equivalent to over 600 tons of TNT, precisely focused on a circular area with a diameter of about 25 millimeters in a millisecond to achieve the annihilation effect and destroy this star coin. Such situations typically only occur when hit directly by battleship-class main laser cannons or large particle beams, or when caught in the energy environment of a stellar core. In the chaotic explosions of the DT-7770 battlefield, the probability of meeting these conditions is extremely low. Therefore, in the current battlefield environment, a significant number of intact scattered star coins can indeed be detected. Quick! Release all salvage drones to collect the coins. Lu Ling stood up excitedly. Chapter 203. Little people salvage drones. Don't do anything else, just pick up the change. No matter how far a star coin is, we must bring it back. On the bridge, 30 degrees to port. That silver container is 18 kilometers away. Use the tractor beam to pull it back. Wait. Detecting a high-density metal response inside this Thunderstorm-class ship. Seems like a vault? Which battleship has a vault? Let me see. Oh, Commissioner John. Boss. We found another one, with even higher encryption levels. Is it Commissioner Ivan's private vault? Not just that. There's more over here. This one belongs to Commissioner Hans. Boss, look at this. We hit the jackpot. Huh, Director Zhao? Wow, he actually stored a whole fridge of star coins. These are all loyal subjects of the Empire. After 3 hours of salvage, Lu Ling recovered the first batch of spoils and deployed the first mobile tractor device. Deploying mobile tractor device. Long axis 44 meters. Auto-locking target. A tractor beam shot out, crossing dozens of kilometers, precisely enveloping a massive wreck weighing hundreds of millions of tons. This is a precision energy field control device. It does not rely on consuming huge amounts of energy to pull, but instead uses a gravitational bending force field to create a slope. The core of this device is to locally create a specific space-time curvature that can be controlled. As the wreckage was collected, Zavina was tallying the salvage income while Lu Ling let out a barely noticeable sigh. Originally, in this war, he just wanted to let Aura quietly balance the damage ratio for both sides, making it easier to reduce his future operational resistance, and see if he could pick up any benefits. After all, the Empire and Silver Wing are deadly enemies. But when Governor Sol revealed the moment of dawn to him, the nature of the situation changed. At that time, Aura had analyzed it, and the conclusion was, the Empire cannot accommodate variables like him. Not everyone is like one Beckerin or one Becker, possessing the courage, or helplessness, or passivity, to accept the unknown. His warships can only rely on optical detection. None of the various radar systems, gravitational wave radars, or other advanced technologies can lock onto them. the Empire has not reached this level. The Death Whirlpool stands firm under the concentrated fire of more than a dozen Fearless-class battleships and hundreds of Thunderstorm-class battleships, which has surpassed the Empire's understanding. Eventually, it even transitioned away from the Dawn, going beyond the realm of advanced warships and completely overturning the Empire's military system. This also means that all of the Empire's fleets, fortresses, and defensive structures are rendered ineffective in its presence. Allowing its existence is equivalent to the Empire unilaterally disarming, placing its survival in the hands of the mercy of the being. This is precisely a condition that no supreme ruler of any empire can accept. The dignity of the Empire is far more important than a localized war. Unless one day, this being can directly defeat the Empire's legions. Perhaps then the Emperor would be willing to sit down and negotiate from the perspective of a civilized government. But not now. The reason he decisively chose to retreat the moment Sarai entered in the command ship was primarily because the Death Whirlpool could not withstand the vertical pupil main cannon. A single strike from the Divine Thunder could take down about 88 of the Whirlpool's shields. While the command ship is a strategic doomsday weapon capable of destroying a Fearless-class battleship in one shot, and the risk is too great. Reality is not a game. Penetrating armor and structures can be deadly. After careful consideration, he decided to flee. Proving to the Empire that he could withstand one shot from the doomsday weapon holds no strategic significance and would only expose the vulnerability of his shields. Of course, the most crucial point is that he is no longer alone. His fleet, his influence, and his own development all matter. Once the snowball starts rolling, it cannot stop. Otherwise, any unforeseen massive obstacle ahead could lead to the collapse of all efforts. This is an outcome that he cannot accept. He does not know what other cards the Empire has up its sleeve and will not compromise or retreat. The Dawn is just the tip of the iceberg in its Legion's operations. To the Empire, he is a rule breaker, an outsider, completely unconcerned with the Empire's laws, noble games, or even the rules of war. He is an unpredictable and uncontrollable variable. The entire core of the Empire's order is built upon technological control. He embodies the uncontrollable, and for a vast empire, an uncontrollable individual with destructive power poses a far greater threat than known enemies like Silverwing. Therefore, the Empire will never yield to him and will fight to the bitter end. Thus, he temporarily changed his plan. The ultimate goal of this war is no longer simply to weaken or test, but to seize this unprecedented opportunity for salvage. Rather than exhausting efforts to negotiate and engage in deceitful cooperation with various nobles, it is better to directly profit from the war and acquire capital to initiate the future, using the enemy's corpses to forge his own foundation. The battles of DT-77 and DT-70 buried thousands of ships and countless lives. This blood debt must be accounted for. The Empire will never let it go and will inevitably trace back to investigate. Now, the only thing Lu Ling is worried about is Zhuangbei. Although Count Kluin has expressed no concerns, the complexity and darkness of the imperial political vortex cannot be fully anticipated. This is a problem. However, not many people are aware of this issue. Counting carefully, there are no more than 5, and currently, only 2 of them are difficult to move. No, it's 2. It's time to leave Zhuangbei after the extraction is done. Meanwhile, in Carthage, at the luminous sea city, the sunset casts shimmering reflections on the luminous sea, and the rainbow monsoon brings a hint of coolness as it blows through the Silver Sand Bay estate. This luxurious residence, once exclusively belonging to the elder of Zhuangbei, now has its wide gates tightly shut, with the servants and guests who used to come and go having vanished without a trace. In their place, hundreds of guards from the Zhuangbei internal security forces stand watch at various entrances, and drones occasionally patrol the sky. A sleek sports hovercar slowly comes to a stop beside the tree-lined path, some distance from the main entrance of the estate. A gap in the window rolls down, revealing a pair of eyes filled with anger and resentment. It is Lonely. First, his accounts were frozen, and now his assets have been seized. Kluin's retaliation is swift and ruthless, clearly aimed at his son Parker, whose first-in-line inheritance rights have been suspended. Loney looks at the familiar back garden, his heart racing. He sees the unfamiliar guards at the entrance and the glaring seizure marks. There is no longer a place for him here. I have poured my heart and soul into this family, sacrificing so much. A wave of resentment surges within him. Setting aside Beckett's betrayal, doesn't T. Parker bear any responsibility? That 500 million star coins represent the family wealth we have accumulated over the years. He takes a deep breath and quickly regains his composure. Those short-sighted fools will regret it when I become the powerful Count of Rabbit and establish my foothold. There will come a time when you need me. The window rises slowly. Take me to the office at Warehouse 79, Area C, of the 7th Airport's affiliated storage. I can't stay in this Zhuangbei Dominion for another moment. Go as fast as possible. He orders the car's smart driving system. The engine of the sports hovercar roars as it aggressively merges into traffic, ignoring any traffic rules, causing chaos and honking behind. Seconds later, a traffic patrol hovercar arrives, but only sees the prestigious Elder emblem on the tail of the departing vehicle, ultimately leaving in silence. They cannot understand why such a high-ranking figure would not take the privileged route and instead come to create trouble for them. It disrupts the order of Zhuangbei. They can't manage it, and it creates negative public opinion. Loney leans back in the back seat, once a symbol of status and supreme comfort. But now it feels like sitting on needles. He realizes he has been slow to react. He thought that with his Elder status and years of operations, he could buy some time, but he did not expect Cluen and Parker's cleansing to be so swift and thorough, leaving no room for maneuver. Now, his only hope rests on the final backup he prepared. Loney continuously taps the communicator, using Rabbit's encrypted relay to contact Beckett, but no matter how many times he dials, all he gets is a cold, automated response. Damn it, is this some kind of trick? He looked pale, but soon scoffed dismissively. Fortunately, he had recorded a video, otherwise, it would be hard to explain to the Marquis later. Half an hour later, after traversing half of the Carthage star, he finally arrived at the 7th spaceport. This was a civilian spaceport exclusively for Carthage citizens, with spaceships arriving at the starport and a space elevator leading directly to the terminal. Realizing Beckett was unreliable, Roney had rented a high-end independent office here under a series of disguises, serving as his final refuge and departure point. Here, he kept his true lifeline, a gold card from the Colossi Empire Bank with a balance of 1.5 billion star coins, an identity mask that even the top biological detection technology from Zhuangbai could not penetrate, a chip, and a high-performance luxury shuttle, the Laumach S600 series, designed for long-range travel. This was the ultimate escape plan he had prepared for himself, keeping it hidden from everyone, even from Beckett, who had been deceived. The entire 7th spaceport was bustling, with short-distance spaceships taking off one after another, and automated platforms transporting hundreds of thousands of tons to the space elevator preparation area. It resembled a steel hive that never sleeps. At the entrance of the office of the Reverse Dragon Trading Company, Room 79 in Zone C, an inconspicuous silver-gray alloy door slowly opened. Roney's hover car glided silently into its designated parking space. He knew time was running out, and almost immediately jumped out of the car, pressing his trembling fingers roughly on the identity scanner. Highest authority verification passed. "Welcome, Mr. Hawkins," a calm female electronic voice announced. Roney let out a long breath. It seemed that this hideout had not yet been exposed. The second layer of the blast door slowly slid open. Inside, the air was temperature and humidity controlled, and the sleek, pearl white and deep space blue matte Laumach S600 luxury shuttle quietly docked here, its elegant 48-meter-long hull glistening under carefully designed lighting. The boarding stairs were lowered, and Roney quickly boarded the ship. In an instant, all the noise and danger from the outside seemed to be cut off, greatly increasing his sense of security. The interior of the Laumach S600 was extravagantly decorated. The floor was made of rare warm jade wood from distant galaxies, warm and comfortable to the bare foot. The walls were wrapped in the finest dragon horned bird suede, with a delicate texture, and the air was infused with a calming sea scent released by a custom fragrance system. This shuttle featured a bedroom, suite, bar, gym, small swimming pool, armory, lookout terrace, and everything else one could need. For Roney, even in escape, he had to maintain the dignity of an elder. Deep in the bedroom, there was a temporarily converted biological culture dish and several expensive optimization potions. Having suffered losses at Beckett's hands, he now just wanted to become a new human as soon as possible. His path of revenge would begin from this shuttle. He roughly checked the ship's condition. Over the past few days, he had been studying shuttle piloting tirelessly, and fortunately, this Laumach S600 was highly intelligent. Boldly employing Level 016 artificial intelligence, the highest level of civilian experimental AI, permitted by imperial regulations, is Level 02. According to the president of the company, as long as the intelligent device does not return, the company remains an absolutely safe haven. Roney quickly dashed to the cockpit and sat down on the meticulously handcrafted seat. The luxurious leather's enveloping feel and support offered a fleeting sense of peace to his shaken body. He greedily took a deep breath, his fingers swiftly dancing across the touchscreen to initiate the pre-check procedure. He then pulled up the star map of the Rabbit Dominion, locking the destination directly to the capital star, Mingguang 3. Just then, a cold, hard object pressed against the back of his head without warning. Ronnie's muscles instantly stiffened, and his pupils dilated sharply. "Oh, Uncle Ronnie, sorry, wrong person, Mr. Hawkins." Parker's voice came from behind him, tinged with just the right amount of surprise and gentleness. "Mr. Hawkins, are you traveling to Mingguang 3? It seems you have a great desire for the Rabbit Marquis 8. I wonder what high position Marquis Eisen has granted you." The cold gun barrel tapped against the back of Ronnie's head, again and again, each impact bringing a clear sensation of pain and humiliation. "Viscount or Earl, with Mr. Hawkins' status. If I were Marquis Eisen, I would surely bestow an earldom, otherwise it wouldn't be fitting. Mr. Hawkins? Why are you silent? Ronnie dared not express his anger or speak. Cold sweat instantly soaking his back and chest, the expensive shirt clinging to his skin. He knew it was all over. The gun barrel shifted slightly. Ronnie stiffly turned around, only to see the murderous intent in Parker's golden eyes almost solidifying, while his face still bore a faint, calm expression. Heavy footsteps approached from outside the cabin, belonging to Parker's personal guards, not the family tribunal. Seeing this, Ronnie felt a flicker of relief. This was just this kid acting on his own. Parker, you dare to detain and threaten an elder. It seems the lesson from the last impeachment meeting hasn't taught you any rules. Parker chuckled lightly at this. Elder? Mr. Hawkins, I think you've made a mistake. I just lost a shuttle. Coincidentally, it was also a Model S-600, exactly like yours. Saying this, he pulled out a key. What a coincidence, right? Ronnie was taken aback, looking at the young smiling face, feeling a chill run up his spine. What Hawkins? I am the 10th elder of the Juang Beilong family. Parker's smile slowly faded. His two guards immediately stepped forward, roughly pulling Ronnie up from the pilot's seat. Ronnie struggled desperately, only to receive two fierce slaps. Parker, you are outrageous. Ronnie screamed as he was dragged out of the shuttle. Parker stepped out and approached Ronnie, who was being forced to kneel on the ground, with a blank expression. Previously, Lord Lu Ling told me an ancient saying from Earth. At the time, I couldn't grasp its profound meaning, but now I feel it is quite fitting. His gaze fell to Ronnie's lower body as he slowly said, a gentleman is open and at ease, while a petty person has no fortune. Mr. Hawkins, are you a petty person? Ronnie was filled with terror, completely unable to comprehend this bizarre question. Parker, are you crazy? What do you want to do? In his desperate gaze, a doctor in a white coat approached, first bowing respectfully to Parker, then casting an emotionless look at Ronnie. Parker slightly raised his chin, for guards immediately seized Ronnie's hands and feet, lifting him into the air in a spread eagle position. No, Parker, what are you trying to do? I am an elder of the Zhuangbai. Ronnie completely broke down, looking at the guards and the doctor. Do you know what you're doing? This is a crime against the entire clan. Think of your parents. Think of your children. Think of your future. No one paid him any mind. The doctor flipped his hand to reveal an extremely sharp molecular scalpel, swiftly slicing open Ronnie's pants. The cold blade measured in segments, as if intending to completely dismember the entire structure, ensuring that the upcoming surgery would be thorough, clean, and without residue. Ronnie felt a chill in his lower body, gripped by boundless fear. He trembled violently, stiffly raising his head, his wide-open eyes filled with incredulous horror. Kill me. Kill me. Parker, you little brat. If you have the guts, kill me. His piercing screams echoed in the empty warehouse. Oh, does the native need anesthesia? A playful female voice came from the doctor's mask. It's fine if you don't. With my skills, even a native won't die. Of course, they won't grow back after this. Parker stepped forward, looking down at Ronnie from a height, his gaze cold and indifferent, repeating the question. Mr. Hawkins, are you a coward? Ronnie screamed in panic, incoherent. Just kill me. Kill me. You little beast. Little madman. How could you treat a clan elder like this? A cold light flashed. All screams and curses abruptly stopped. Parker personally placed an identity mask on him. Mr. Hawkins, congratulations, you are now a coward. Chapter 204, Cleansing in the Void. A cruiser was in the midst of a jump. The hull bore the emblem of the Rabbit biological group, a king snake entwined with DNA, faintly visible on the streamlined armor. This, Steel Viper class, is a light cruiser developed by the Rabbit family, equipped with a 65 FF jump engine, measuring 345 meters in length, and capable of carrying 650 personnel. Belonging to the Rabbit biological group. Inside the bridge, the light was dim, illuminated only by the glow of the control panel screens. Lord Beckett sat in the captain's seat, his face grim, the confidence previously seen in his eyes replaced by an indescribable sense of foreboding. The DT-77 and DT-70 had no winners. This disastrous defeat felt like a nightmare. He hid behind a star, witnessing a battle that overturned all understanding. The clash of two massive fleets. The monstrous warship of the Earth Federation obliterating 6 fully equipped assault battleships of the Silver Wing S Dark Moon Barrier with unmatched might. And the terrifying main cannon of the Imperial Navy's planetary fortress spiraling out of control. Even Marquis Eisen was caught in it, unable to escape. Next, the Rabbit family would not know how much they would have to sacrifice to rid themselves of the Empire's investigation and scrutiny. Beckett's heart sank repeatedly. The Empire had suffered heavy losses this time, and the cost was too great. Even Marquis Eisen would be severely affected. How long until we reach the entrance of the deep space route at the border of Zhuangbai? Beckett's voice was hoarse, losing the smooth composure he had maintained in the past. 5 minutes, my lord. The navigator's voice was tense. We are about to enter the edge of the dust ice belt, where gravitational turbulence and debris clouds can effectively interfere with most conventional scans. But before he could finish, an alarm suddenly popped up in front of the window. Alert! The space distortion coefficient is rising. Someone has deployed transition interference probes. Expected to exit transition in 15 seconds. Outside the porthole, the transition corridor, which had been as stable as white silk, began to twist violently and dissipate, replaced by the cold, dead vacuum of space, filled with countless enormous icy asteroids stretching as far as the eye could see. We are exiting the transition. Prepare for impact. The Steel Viper suddenly shook violently. A typical sign that the transition engine had been interrupted. A low rumble swept through the entire ship as the Steel Viper-class vessel was brutally yanked from the transition corridor by an unseen giant hand, rolling and sliding awkwardly. Inertia throwing it into a chaotic void filled with ice rocks and cosmic dust. The main viewport of the bridge reversed. Emergency lights instantly replaced the main illumination, casting ghostly red reflections on everyone's faces. Report damage. The transition engine is overloaded, the navigation system is offline, and recalibration is in progress. Shield energy density has dropped by 17. Activate the reverse thrust. Reverse thrust. We are going to crash. Bang! A muffled roar, accompanied by the sound of twisting metal, echoed throughout the ship. The Steel Viper collided solidly with an ice asteroid over 500 meters in diameter, the shields flickering before ultimately collapsing under the immense kinetic energy and gravitational pressure. The released safety belts tightened around everyone. Lord Beckett grasped the handrail, his gaze sweeping over the tactical screen. On the screen, the previously empty beacon overview area instantly lit up with a dense cluster of exactly 100 blue light spots. Through a high-magnification optical capture lens, the light spots could be clearly seen. They were painted with the iconic eagle emblem of the Zhuangbai family, clutching a planet in its talons. All were high-speed cruisers of the Bitter Cultivation class and battlecruisers of the Thunder Fury class, quietly emerging from the shadow of the giant ice rock and the thick dust cloud. At this moment, the engines of these warships were glowing with a ghostly blue light, their turrets slowly turning, coldly locking onto the solitary Steel Viper. A full 2 fleets of the Zhuangbai Navy. They had been waiting here for a long time. How could they be here? Came the voice of the Zhuangbai officer's aide, trembling with despair. This secret route. Beckett's heart sank to the bottom. This route was a secret line mapped out by the Rabbit family at great expense, equipped with frozen small orbital accelerators at the deep space route entrance, and had never been used since its construction. The Zhuangbai people should not have known about it, unless there was a traitor among the team. Or perhaps they had been watching him all along, even potentially intercepting some of his encrypted communications with the Marquis. But how could that be? Every confidential discussion with the Marquis took place at the Lily Hotel, using end-to-end quantum crystal-driven relays. Just as he was lost in thought, an external communication request abruptly cut into the nearly paralyzed system of the Steel Viper. The holographic image unfolded, revealing Count Clurin. At that moment, he was dressed in a crisp uniform of the Admiral of the Zhuangbai Navy, his face devoid of any expression, only his cold golden eyes piercing through the image to meet Beckett's gaze. Lord Beckett, Count Clurin's voice emerged, laced with a hint of chill. In such a hurry. Where are you planning to go? Beckett suppressed his racing heart and forced a smile. It's an honor to finally meet you, Your Excellency. I don't quite understand your words. He shrugged, feigning nonchalance. While I am indeed Lord Rabbit, I also serve as a senior regional manager for the Rabbit Bio Group. I am merely on a company assignment to collect some special mineral samples from the Border Star region. I must have accidentally wandered into the military-restricted zone of Zhuangbai. As he spoke, he displayed just the right amount of regret and apology on his face. If that's the case, I sincerely apologize. I will change course immediately. Without waiting for Clurin's response, he directly ordered the navigation officer to prepare the jump engine to collect comparative mineral samples from Area B. The navigation officer's lips twitched slightly. What was wrong with the leadership? The jump interference is still active, my lord, speaking nonsense with your eyes wide open. However, he dared not voice his thoughts and could only stiffly pretend to operate the console quickly, as if truly following orders. Count Clurin's golden eyes calmly observed Beckett's hasty and clumsy performance in the holographic image, his gaze sharp as that of a hawk, indifferently scrutinizing the prey still struggling in the trap. Lord Beckett, this Steel Viper-class vessel does not seem to be a research ship, and I have not found any record of you applying for a navigation permit to enter the non-open area of the Zhuangbai Autonomous Territory. Clurin spoke again. According to the Imperial Nobility Convention, armed vessels that intrude into another's autonomous territory without prior notification may be subject to destruction rights by the local authorities. He revealed a faint smile. Moreover, when did Rabbit Bio start researching minerals? I'm quite curious about what rare ores lie deep within the dust ice belt. Evading all conventional navigation beacons. Beckett's facial muscles twitched slightly, a forced smile on his lips. Your Excellency jokes. Mineral research is a corporate secret. As for the Steel Viper, it is indeed not a dedicated research vessel. It is my personal preferred mode of transport. As you know, piracy is rampant in the Zhuangbai waters, and necessary self-defense capabilities are always required. He paused, as if carefully weighing his words, and continued, as for the navigation permit and prior notification, that was indeed my oversight. Please accept my sincerest apologies. This trip was rushed, involving a highly prioritized project for the group, and, well, you know how fierce commercial competition can be. Count Cruin nodded thoughtfully. So you ran directly from DT-77? Beckett's expression suddenly changed. Indeed, he had abandoned his original destroyer at DT-77 and boarded the cruiser where Rachel was, thinking he had executed a clever escape. However, at the moment he was distracted, the last trace of calm on Count Cruin's face vanished in an instant, and his voice turned icy cold. Beckett, do you know your crimes? Infiltrating my sovereignty, drugging the elders to extract our secrets, murdering the elders' guards afterward, designing to destroy our tax ships, secretly colluding with the Silver Wing rebels to assassinate my first heir, guiding the Silver Wings to leap into our sovereign territory, causing the outbreak of war, resulting in devastation. With each of Cruin's words, Beckett's complexion paled further, cold sweat soaking through his luxurious uniform lining, dripping down. Do you plead guilty? Beckett trembled, forcing himself to remain calm. What are you talking about, Your Excellency? I don't understand. Don't understand? Cruin's sharp gaze swept over, the chilling glare almost making Beckett unable to meet his eyes. Lord Beckett, the Count's voice regained its calm. But beneath that calmness was a sentence of judgment. Based on the complete sovereignty and independent jurisdiction granted to Wanbei by the Empire, I hereby officially inform you. In my capacity as the 6th Lord of Wanbei, you are suspected of multiple and serious violations of our sovereignty and core interests, causing immeasurable losses. We will now legally seize you and the vessel you are on. Beckett was taken aback, as if grasping at a final straw, and hurriedly argued, You have no right to seize me. I am a noble of the Marquisate of Rabbit, enjoying noble immunity. Any cross-border enforcement must be reported to the noble lower house's foreign ministry in advance. However, Cruin interrupted directly. His voice transmitted clearly through the communication channel to every Wanbei warship surrounding the area. Lord Beckett's loyalty is unquestionable. Concentrate fire. No, you are not following the rules. I will file a complaint. Outside the window, countless beams of intense energy and whistling missiles engulfed the Steel Viper. The flames illuminated Count Cruin's profile. Rules? Lord Beckett, you won't return to Rabbit. That is the rule. Chapter 205. Lidalu. The DT-77 space domain, once a battlefield, now lay in silence. The mobile towing devices had become tirelessly working, surrounded by hundreds of large wrecks piled into a massive metal mountain stretching for hundreds of kilometers. The salvage operation had been underway for several hours, and due to the immense mass of these warships, often in the hundreds of millions or billions of tons, the establishment of towing channels and the speed of towing were exceedingly slow. After all, it was the clone version. Lu Ling stood in front of the observation window of the Astro-class ship. Although the progress was slow, the results were satisfactory. Salvage drones were coming and going, each time returning to the cargo hold with a large amount of star currency. Safes and vaults were sucked into the towing devices, then opened like fruits, emptied inside. The star coins were directly absorbed by Lu Ling, and in just a few hours, over 60 million in cash had been recovered. In contrast, the valuable items in this small area of space had been completely salvaged, and many people behind Lu Ling were counting the materials. Various currently scarce high-level weapons, energy mediums, shimmering energy crystals, chips, potions, implants, armor, and even a dozen intact level 7 officer nano battlesuits were among them. These resources, which cannot be liquidated, are currently valued at just over 20 million based on market value, with most of the remainder damaged beyond estimation in the explosions. However, when it comes to scavenging, everything is collected. At worst, they can be melted down later for a batch of fine rare materials. According to Aura's calculations, if no costs are incurred, this salvage operation could last for more than 2 months unless they abandon the wreckage. But is that even possible? Unlike games that only give you a few metal scraps, these empires contain an astonishing amount of high-level shipbuilding metals in the wreckage of the Silverwing battleships. With just a refinement of impurities, they can be reprocessed into titanium alloys, isotopic composites, silver-like supermetals, crystalline gel minerals, and even supernova kino and hyperore, among others. Additionally, valuable planetary materials such as reactive metals, industrial fibers, rare metals, toxic metals, tensile plastics, non-cubic crystals, base metals, and precious metals can also be separated from these battleship wrecks. Furthermore, the wreckage can be dismantled for reactive materials, molecular materials, a large number of polymer conductors, nano microcircuits, energy pipelines, crystal arrays, and other high-value components. Although the technology is outdated, essentially, all of these are recyclable ship production resources. As long as they secure the Space Fortress engineering complex and unlock the industrial center, they can be remelted into valuable industrial raw materials using advanced EVE technology. There is also a significant amount of fuel. Just the heavy water storage tanks collected so far exceed 600,000 cubic meters, along with a large quantity of liquefied ozone, helium, oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, and other isotopes. At that moment, Savina approached, clad in the Level 7 nano battlesuit of the Imperial officer, enhancing her stature even more. She had just checked and reported that there were 248 Ryu-class battleships with damaged engines and destroyed shields, but the armor structure was relatively intact, and the personnel had already evacuated. The hangars still contained a number of aircraft and iron riders. These battleships had to be abandoned during the retreat due to their engines being destroyed. In the energy core storage, we scanned 860,000 shimmering energy purple crystals that were not taken away in time. I accessed the diagnostic system to analyze that the reason for the high strength of the Dark Moon barrier is that it is powered by these crystals, and we have already dispatched salvage drones for recovery. Each shimmering energy purple crystal has a market value of 10,000 star coins, making the total value of 860,000 crystals worth 8.6 billion. Lu Ling raised an eyebrow. Indeed, with such wealth, 8.6 billion in strategic resources can be discarded casually. Sending Savina and her team to take a look was also to resolve Lu Ling's doubts. Due to the strength of the Dark Moon barrier, which far exceeds that of the Death Whirlpool, even with 7,000 Thunder Moon-class ships working together, the continuous shield still left a deep impression on Lu Ling. The Silver Wing managed to withstand most of the firepower with only a third of the Empire's fleet, even piercing through the flanks of the Imperial fleet. Otherwise, no matter how formidable Aura was, it would have been powerless to change the situation. Therefore, he wanted to know why the Thunder Moon class was so strong and so enduring. Now, the confusion was cleared up. It turned out that the strength of the shield was a result of a costly exchange, and Lu Ling felt no envy at all. In this battle, the Silver Wing burned at least 200 to 300 billion shimmering purple crystals just to maintain the Dark Moon barrier. If that money were given to him, he would directly throw it in the face of the Emperor of the Invincible Knights tomorrow. Wait, Lu Ling suddenly had an idea. Aura prioritized the recovery of large debris with a low loss rate using the mobile traction device. Priority item modified. Although these ships were of little use to Lu Ling, as long as they were equipped with Eve's jump engines and shield systems, their speed and defense could easily crush the locals. Of course, their weaponry might not match those of the cults. From beginning to end, humanity had conquered the Starry Sea through wisdom. Based on this great battle, although the Silver Wing and the Empire couldn't completely replicate the relics of the pioneers, they both understood the principle of using sheer force. If one divine punishment thunderbolt wasn't enough, then gather more. Even the Death Whirlpool had to temporarily avoid the limelight. Moreover, the Silver Wing's Dark Moon barrier, composed of 7,000 Thunder Moon-class ships, repeatedly blocked the main cannon fire of the Destiny Judgment. So, if Lu Ling could recover these ships, make minor modifications, and sell them based on their inferior technology, he could earn at least tens of thousands of times the profit. With this thought, he opened the marketplace. Damn. Is this all there is to it? Light Frigate, Empire. Available quantity 3, price 800,000 ISK. Villar Tor. Available quantity 4, price 500,000 ISK. Ibis. Available quantity 6, price 300,000 ISK. Grim Reaper. Available quantity 19, price 100,000 ISK. The term Endless Day refers to extremely cheap ships in Eve, where losses wouldn't cause any heartache. Indeed, his idea was to dismantle these small tonnage light frigates and install their jump engines onto the Thunder Moon-class ships, allowing this behemoth of hundreds of millions of tons to jump without being too outrageous. The same goes for the shield systems, though he hadn't tried that yet. As for whether the locals would reverse engineer them, he wasn't worried at all. Even if the system assets were sold, they would still belong to him. Moreover, layer-based technology is not so easy to reverse engineer. Finally, the technology given to the clone egg people was already sufficiently limited, just as it was for the local natives, layered and restricted. In the distance, a flash of jumping light appeared as a Reclaimer-class ship quietly glided into the shadow of the massive debris field, its bright yellow paint against the steel ruins backdrop appearing particularly striking, yet exuding a sense of cold industrial power. A voice with a hint of lazy charm echoed through the communication channel. Captain, did you call me over again to see me dance? Later, Kristen. Lu Ling is currently focused solely on making money. You are the expert. Collaborate with Aura to turn this scrap metal into gold. Kristen possesses expert-level scrap processing and recovery technology. Aura, work with Kristen to estimate the refining time and returns. In the universe, The Cycler class has activated the 4 open-pit mining machines, with green beams shining on the debris, melting it into smaller metal fragments, which are then drawn by an invisible force field for preliminary crushing. Scan complete. Estimated total debris volume, 11.78 billion cubic meters, approximately 100 Thunderstorm-class battleships. Component analysis. High-strength alloys, hull structural steel, engine isolation plates, weapon system components, electronic systems and cables, reactor materials, others, unexploded ordnance, personal belongings, etc. Estimated refining yield, titanium alloy, approximately 4, 558, 740, 641 m isotopic polymer, approximately 464, 200, 338 m silver-like supermetal, approximately 299, 850, 184 m crystal-like gel, or approximately 110, 100, 000 m crystalline quartz core rock, approximately 86, 484, 846 m supernova oxide, approximately 40, 380, 997 m hyperite, or approximately 9, 787, 016 m base metals, 1, 880, 247, 521 m reactive metals, using Cycler-class refining furnace at full power. Estimated time, 271 standard hours, approximately 113 standard days. Recommended to anchor at the Laitalu Industrial Complex, which can significantly enhance refining efficiency, seeing or a suggestion. Luling opened the shop to take a look. Construction Project Complex Laitalu. The Laitalu Engineering Complex is named after Timala Laitalu, who made outstanding contributions in the field of modern missile technology. It is a medium-sized building of the Shungwei Consortium dedicated to manufacturing and research projects. Laitalu is the entry-level industrial complex in the new series of buildings from the Shungwei Consortium and can utilize Shungwei's standing service equipment, allowing for more flexible and customizable functions. This specialized industrial building can also be equipped with Shungwei's medium modification components to improve productivity and enhance manufacturing and research efficiency in various aspects. The Laitalu Engineering Complex also provides docking and residency functions for non-flagship and cargo ships. Length, 54 kilometers. Height, 54 kilometers. Width, 54 kilometers. Shield, 2, 400, 000. Armor, 1, 200, 000. Structure, 2, 400, 000. High energy slots, 40, medium energy slots, 30, low energy slots, 50, service slots, 10, market price, 8, 400, 000. ISK. It seems that a trip to the Karasi Empire Bank is necessary first. Luling fell into deep thought. Once there is a personal industrial base, it means truly establishing a foothold in this star domain. In Eve, the technical term is called lighting up. Chapter 206, Meeting Carthage, Triumph Fortress, Garden. As dawn broke, soft golden light filtered through the meticulously trimmed bushes, casting mottled shadows on the bluestone path. The air was filled with the cool scent of morning dew and flowers, and the distant chirping of early birds could be heard. Count Cruin turned his back to Parker, his gaze seemingly fixed on a weathered iron pine in the distance. His voice steady yet heavy with gravity. You've gone too far this time. Lonnie, despite everything, is a family elder. Even if he were to betray us, it should be handled by the family's judgment seat. Resorting to extrajudicial measures and such humiliating tactics. Where did you learn that? He slowly turned around, his deep golden eyes locking onto Parker. The faction behind Lonnie is deeply rooted. The new elder they promote will surely cast a dissenting vote in your heir evaluation meeting. The first-in-line heir must be approved unanimously by the council. You are digging a pit for your own future. Parker stood tall, the morning light casting upon his youthful face. The coldness from last night still lingering, yet his eyes were clear. Father, do you really believe the judgment seat will handle this fairly? Cruin's gaze flickered, but he did not respond. Both father and son knew the answer to that question. In extraordinary times, extraordinary measures must be taken. Parker's voice was as cold as ice. Lonnie must die, and he must die in a way that sends a strong message to everyone. I want every traitorous heart to clearly see the consequences of betraying the family. It's not just losing power. I will strip them of everything they hold dear, everything they rely on for survival. This includes the dignity and identity they cherish as if it were life itself. Cruin listened quietly, his expression complex. I want Lonnie's name to become a joke, a warning. Let his death close off all paths for those who might follow. Parker's eyes glinted with killing intent. Dissenting votes from the council? Father, if my qualification as heir depends on the approval of those fence-sitters, or even potential traitors, then I don't want this position. The future leader of the family should not be elevated through compromise and deals. Parker, Cruin's voice was heavy. You disappoint me greatly. Those words felt like a cold splash of water, extinguishing the fire in Parker's eyes. Do you think you are showcasing a strong hand? No. You are merely venting personal grievances, and in the most foolish, self-incriminating way. Cruin stepped forward, his gaze piercing, fixating intensely on Parker. Do you think the Lonnie faction will only target you? How naive. They are likely already devising ways to deal with the entire main family, because you have broken the most basic tacit understanding of the game. Dignity? Parker couldn't help but retort. Do we need to talk about dignity with a traitor? Exactly because he is a traitor, he must be dealt with in a dignified manner. Cruin's voice suddenly rose, carrying an undeniable authority. We can operate within the rules, conviction by the judgment seat, public exile, even a death sentence. That is a legitimate purging. But what have you done? Resorting to extrajudicial measures and extreme humiliation has made all the elders, including those neutral parties still observing, wonder every night if they will be next. This kid Parker from the family is actually a madman who plays by no rules. Following him. Is there any basic guarantee of life safety? Cruin stepped closer, almost face to face with Parker, lowering his voice, yet making it heavier. As my successor, what is the foundation of your rule? Is it fear? Not entirely. It's more about predictability. It's about letting those below know what actions will be rewarded and what boundaries will lead to punishment, and this reward and punishment must be systematic. We need our allies to believe that everything we do is for the betterment of the family. And you, unable to control your anger and murderous intent. Today you might castrate an elder out of rage. Tomorrow, will you massacre someone just because they annoy you? You are dismantling this pillar. What you gain is not loyal fear, but a pervasive sense of insecurity and division. Parker's face gradually paled, yet he stood stubbornly. Cruin took a deep breath. His tone slightly softened, yet it became more brutal. You say you don't want to rise through compromise and deals? How naive. The Juam family has stood for 2,000 years, not because of one person's absolute correctness or strength, but because of balance. It's about exchanging interests. It's about making each branch feel that supporting the head of the family is more beneficial than turning against them. A unanimous vote is the rule. Is this rule foolish? Yes, but its existence forces future heads of the family to negotiate, to compromise, to integrate the bloodline of Juam. In this process, you learn how to be a head of the family, not an uncontrolled emotional madman, a bandit, or a street drunkard. Now look at you. You flipped the table. Yes, it felt good, very satisfying, but then what? Cruin stared at him. Ronnie's support is definitely lost, but what about the others? Those who might have been neutral, or even slightly leaning towards us? What will they think now? Will they still trust a rule-breaking heir's promises? Child, you must understand, destruction is always easier than construction. Showing cruelty is one of the lowest methods. True power lies in making people rely on you even if they hate you. In having the ability to establish an order that forces everyone to play within the rules, even if they are dissatisfied. You have proved your ruthlessness. But you have yet to demonstrate your ability to manage the chaos that follows. You think you've blocked a path, but in reality, you have pushed yourself to the edge of a cliff. He walked up to Parker, patting his shoulder with a heavy hand. This time, I cannot help you. Where will I? Since you have chosen the hardest path, you must walk it alone. The backlash from Ronnie's faction will come soon, and the Senate's doubts will only increase. Every step you take from now on cannot afford to be wrong. Cruin withdrew his hand and looked towards the rising sun. What you will bear in the future is the life and death of 6 billion people, the survival of the Juam family. Only by controlling your emotions can people calm down and think. The old steward approached silently. Sir, you are needed for a meeting. Understood. Cruin walked outside. But Ronnie almost got me killed. Parker took a deep breath, his golden pupils settling into silence. The Count's footsteps stopped. He did not turn back. And the sunlight stretched his shadow long, almost completely enveloping Parker. After a long silence, the voice lost its previous sharpness, now carrying a sense of desolation and absolute authority. Then he must be allowed to die legally. The moment you resort to vigilante justice, you have lowered yourself to his level. If you wish to break the rules, you must possess absolute power. Do you, Zhuangbipak, have that power? After saying this, Clurin no longer lingered, turning and leaving directly, leaving Parker alone in the brilliant yet cold morning light. Absolute power, Parker muttered to himself as he stood still. In the study of Triumph Fortress, the atmosphere was starkly different from the usual tranquility and fragrance of books. On the desk, which had been passed down through generations of earls, all other items had been cleared away, leaving only a solemnly placed long-range communication device. The device, streamlined and silver, symbolized the hereditary status of the imperial earls. Its cool surface flowed with a mercury-like sheen, and it was engraved with the ancient eagle emblem of the Zhuangbei family, representing its uniqueness and the glory of generations. In the strict hierarchy of the directly governed nobility of the empire, earls were silver, marquises were purple, and dukes were gold. This silver hue at this moment was both a display of status and a boundary that was difficult to cross. Next to the device, A box containing opened, shining amethyst crystals was carefully arranged. These crystals, about the size of a thumb, contained shimmering light, as if they encapsulated a miniature nebula, slowly releasing gentle and stable energy waves, providing the necessary massive energy for this long-distance communication. As the light swept across, the physical bookshelves, paintings, and carpets became slightly transparent and blurred, as if the entire study was being pulled into a crevice between reality and the virtual world. Clurin sat alone in the wide chair that symbolized the authority of the head of the family, his figure appearing both lonely and upright within the diffused halo of light. Before him, a massive, semi-transparent circular light screen quickly coalesced and expanded, replacing the original wall. This was an important security joint meeting at the star sector level, attended by all hereditary noble lords, directly governed governors, and constellation overseers of the empire. The host of the meeting was the Imperial Star Sector Governor, who commanded an army of 250,000, the highest ruler of the entire star sector. One of the 24 regional lords of the empire, above whom only the emperor reigned. It could be said that he was truly second to none, above billions of lives. The light and shadow began to shift and stabilize. In an instant, Clurin seemed no longer in the study of Triumph Fortress. He appeared in an incredibly grand and solemn circular conference hall. This was a virtual hall entirely constructed of energy and light, with a high dome seemingly connecting directly to the starry sky. Beneath his feet was a flowing star map, representing the 23 constellations of the 63rd star sector. Figures around him gradually became clearer, solidifying one by one in their respective seats. The image of the star sector governor stabilized first at the highest position in front, a figure exuding an imposing presence even as a holographic projection. As his gaze swept across the room, the invisible whispers within the conference hall instantly vanished. On both sides are the seats of 16 constellation governors, their images clear, commanding an army of 16 directly governed constellations. Following them are the figures of 43 provincial governors, forming a solid middle layer of imperial rule. On the other side, the colors of the light curtain become deeper and more luxurious. The images of 4 dukes materialize almost simultaneously: the Duke of Dragon Throat, the Duke of Dark Star, the Duke of Serpent Eye Flower, and the Duke of Wolf Poison. Each duke holds autonomy over at least 1 or even 2 constellations. Below them is an array of 39 marquises, among whom Cluin sees Eisen. Their families had a good relationship before, but now tensions are brewing. At the same time, he also notices his father-in-law, Marquise Jean Lawn, and they nod slightly to each other in greeting. On the outermost layer, like stars surrounding the moon, are 794 earls, forming the broadest foundation of imperial rule. Cluin is among them, just an inconspicuous member of the outer seats in this vast and strict power structure. However, being at the eye of the storm following the recently concluded Battle of Zhuangbai DT 7770, this small position of his is now attracting quite a few visible or hidden gazes. Cluin sits calmly in his designated seat, his expression inscrutable under the virtual light. He can clearly feel the quiet gaze of Marquise Eisen resting silently upon him. Chapter 207. Security Joint Conference of the 63rd Star Region in the virtual highest joint conference hall of the Empire. The circular dome seems to connect directly with the profound starry sky, with the outlines of 23 constellations faintly glowing in the darkness, like a fate map embedded in the void. On the main screen, the meeting minutes are slowly refreshing. Minutes of the 63rd Star Region Conference of the Partia Empire, ISSC 63 SEC 777001. Meeting topic: Inquiry into the responsibility for the defeat in the Zhuangbai DT 7770 battle. Loss assessment and strategies for unknown threats. Conference arbitrator, Governor of the 63rd Star Region, Star Torch Hersey. Meeting status. Ongoing holographic images light up one by one, solidifying above the layered seats in the circular hall. The Imperial faction and the Noble faction sit opposite each other, with the two camps clearly delineated. These prominent figures of the Empire, who usually command billions of lives and fleets like clouds, show no expressions in their seats. However, the atmosphere is tinged with confusion. Indeed, for the 63rd Star Region, which is the heart of the Empire, there have been no large-scale battles for hundreds of years, apart from border skirmishes against the Alliance of Stars or some restless duchies. Moreover, the losses this time are significant. It is said that nearly half of the First Holy Legion of Kushi has been lost. Even the famous raid by the Silver Wing rebels over 20 years ago seems minor in scale and severity compared to this battle of Zhuangbai DT 7770. Among the noble seats, the images of the 4 dukes and the 16 constellation governors are the most serene. In contrast, the area occupied by the marquises and earls shows more noticeable fluctuations in their images, especially among the nobles of the Kushi constellation, who are worried about the spread of the flames of war to their homes. At the highest seat, the governor of the Star Region, Xingju Hesh, surveyed everything with a cold heart. The 63rd Star Region, accustomed to the games of negotiation and trade after a long period of peace, now felt a chill down the spines of the nobles who relied on order for profit with the sudden news of heavy losses suffered by the First Holy Legion of Kashi. On his desk lay several top-secret documents that had reached him, the governor overseeing an army of 250,000 before anyone else. Among them were detailed battle reports on the DT-7770 campaign commanded by Sol and Bionic, as well as classified intelligence from the Zhuangbai Empire's Intelligence Bureau, including incidents of mysterious ghost ships raiding Blackwater Bay. Another document pertained to Aizen, containing detailed plans targeting the Zhuangbai territory, including a record of Lord Beckett under the main commander attacking a Zhuangbai tax ship. Ladies and gentlemen, Hesh's voice was devoid of any emotion but instantly captured everyone's attention as the meeting commenced. The sole agenda was to clarify the truth behind the DT-7770 campaign, the reasons for the Imperial Legion's defeat, assess the new threats facing the Empire, and decide the future direction of the 63rd Star Region. He paused slightly, his gaze like a tangible force landing on Sol. First, I invite Governor Kashi, Julius Sol, to present the course of the battle. In an instant, all eyes focused on Sol. His image leaned slightly forward, his shoulders straight as if still wearing the heavy governor's uniform, carrying an invisible weight. Yet, for some reason, his face was etched with fatigue and hardship. Perhaps it was due to the defeat in battle. Your Excellency, esteemed colleagues, Sol rose to acknowledge. I will present the course of the DT-77 battle based on the facts. The initial cause of the incident originated from the Zhuangbai Count's territory. He spoke directly to the core. I received an urgent report from Count Clun of Zhuangbai. First, traces of Silver Wing resistance activities were found within the territory. Second, an important tax transport ship of the Zhuangbai family was attacked and sunk by an unknown force. A hush fell over the conference room, with only Sol's steady voice echoing. According to the Imperial Crisis Response Regulations, as the governor of Kashi, I have the authority to respond swiftly to potential threats in my jurisdiction. Given the sensitivity of Silver Wing activities and the seriousness of the attack, I determined that it was necessary to deploy deterrent forces immediately to stabilize the situation. Therefore, I authorized the delivery of 50 descent beacons to the Zhuangbai territory and ordered the 5th Assault Fleet of the 1st Holy Legion of Kashi to stand by for immediate response. At that time, the intelligence assessment by the command center believed it was merely a routine disturbance by Silver Wing. Many attendees, especially the noble representatives, nodded slightly. They were familiar with this process. Sol's handling was in accordance with the regulations and posed no issues. However, Sol took a deep breath, his voice growing heavier. The situation took a sharp turn for the worse after the 5th Assault Fleet arrived in the operational airspace, completely exceeding all projected limits of the plans. The Silver Wing resistance launched a large-scale collective jump, numbering in the thousands. A faint gasp echoed in the virtual conference room. The 5th Assault Fleet on duty was instantly encircled. According to the highest emergency plan of the Imperial Navy, they immediately sent out the highest level of distress signal. As the commanding officer directly in charge, I promptly ordered the main force of the 1st Holy Legion to jump into the fray. His voice rose here, carrying a hint of the determination he had when issuing the order, as if pulling everyone back to that moment when the flames of war suddenly erupted. After our main force entered the scene, they quickly engaged in combat with the Silver Wing fleet. However, we soon noticed something unusual. Sol's speech slowed, each word seeming to strike the hearts of those present, as the main target of the Silver Wing fleet appeared not to be attacking Zhuangbi. Then, the real-time image of the Death Vortex appeared on the big screen. Hundreds of Thunderstorm-class battleships from the Silver Wing, arranged in a standard volley formation, struggled to even shake their shields, and after a brief clash, were completely annihilated, leaving only one command ship trailing 500 kilometers away. This scene caused many nobles to rise in shock. This is impossible. Hundreds of Thunderstorm-class ships firing in unison couldn't even penetrate the shields. The earlier doubts of those who had hoped it was merely a command error vanished completely. Sol's gaze finally landed on the image of Marquis Rabbit Aizen, just as our forces and the main force of the Silver Wing were locked in a stalemate. His Excellency Marquis Aizen provided crucial intelligence through a secure channel, identifying the mysterious battleship as belonging to the Earth Federation. The Earth Federation? Most people in the room exclaimed in disbelief. Countless eyes turned towards Aizen, whose image remained still. Based on this information, Governor Sol took a deep breath. Filled with painful regret, I made a decision that would later prove to be disastrous. I believe this technology, far beyond imagination, must not fall into the hands of the Silver Wing rebels or be analyzed by them. To avoid the worst-case scenario, I authorized the activation of the Empire's ultimate control measure, the Dawn system of the Pioneer Holy Relic, intending to forcibly restrain this Earth Federation battleship to buy time for subsequent actions. However, this battleship still departed in the dawn, and I ultimately lost control over the dawn, leading to a complete breakdown of the situation. The dawn could not contain it. Unheard of? Is it a pioneer? The dawn system is one of the Empire's trump cards for suppressing the star domain, and its failure is more terrifying in symbolic significance than a military defeat. The prominent figures in their seats could no longer maintain their composure, for this was a sword that could disembowel them at any moment, regardless of how thick their armor was. Sol's account continued until the entrance of the Silver Wings, Androlet, and Bionic, leaving only a sense of overwhelming despair. Despite our forces still having a numerical advantage, we could no longer utilize the systematic combat advantages that the Imperial Navy excelled at. Tactical defeat was now inevitable. The responsibility lies solely with me. Sol slightly bowed and concluded his statement. He did not offer a single defense for himself, shouldering all the failures. The venue fell into a prolonged, suffocating silence. It was bizarre. This report far exceeded the scope of explaining a military failure, revealing an absolute technological gap. In the heavy silence, the voice of the Minister of Causality, Bionic, broke the stillness. Your Excellency, the Regent, esteemed colleagues. His crimson gaze calmly swept over the assembly. Governor Sol has fulfilled his duties in circumstances that are completely beyond comprehension and contingency plans. Anyone in that position would likely have faced similar outcomes. He directly categorized Sol's military failure as a non-combat fault. Regent Hirsch nodded slightly, turning his gaze to the next speaker. Count Juan, what is your opinion? Count Clurin stood up, bowing slightly, his demeanor respectful yet cautious. Your Excellency. After discovering the activities of the Silver Wings and unidentified warships, I strictly followed the Imperial Crisis Response Regulations and the Noble Duty Code to report it immediately. All communication records and reconnaissance data are complete and available for review and have been submitted to the Parliament. Regarding the so-called Earth Federation's intentions, technological sources, and behavioral logic, Clurin continued, his tone tinged with just the right amount of helplessness. Such matters exceed the knowledge and capabilities of a border count. I am unable to interpret them and cannot be held responsible for this incident. However, Hirsch's gaze suddenly sharpened. Count Clurin, I asked for your opinion, not a recitation of your investigation report. Under Hirsch's almost palpable gaze pressure, Clurin's image only wavered slightly, yet he did not back down. Your Excellency, if it can render Dawn ineffective, its technological level far surpasses our understanding. Among the known star realms, few possess such capabilities, and as for my opinion, it is not something a mere count can decide. As he finished speaking, his gaze subtly shifted towards Eisen, but Eisen remained silent. His youthful and handsome face maintained just the right amount of calm and politeness, as if he were merely listening to Clurin's statement as a routine matter. He did not step forward to testify against Clurin and the Earth Federation's transaction of 500 million star coins. The other Imperial officials and nobles present also remained silent. The current situation was unclear. Governor Sol had voluntarily taken responsibility for the defeat, and Prince Bionic had clearly stated he would protect him, while Regent Hirsch was also Bienic's brother. This situation was too complicated for anyone to want to get involved in. Just as Regent Hirsch looked towards Marquis Eisen, a deep voice broke the deadlock. It was Duke Longthroat, the highly respected old duke, his face marked by years and battles, with eyes as deep as the starry sky. Enough, it has come to this. Pursuing the tactical failure of the DT-77 engagement is meaningless. His voice carried a convincing strength. Bionic is right. Governor Sol's non-combat fault. If any of us were in his position, the outcome would likely be the same. With that, Count Clurin and Marquis Eisen quietly breathed a sigh of relief. Duke Longthroat continued, his voice slightly raised. Now is not the time to correct right and wrong. Rather, we must consider how to respond to this unknown enemy. The Empire has not seen large-scale warfare in its heartland for hundreds of years. Its emergence is a wake-up call, reminding us that there are worlds beyond this one. This is a good thing, allowing us to awaken our military preparedness and mindset. Therefore, I have a few thoughts to share for your Excellency and the esteemed members to consider. He did not use the word suggestion, but rather thoughts. Yet his tone and posture were clearly setting the tone. The Duke of Longho has this capability. A few years ago, when I attended the Emperor's birthday in the capital, I encountered a delegation from the Earth Federation, who were honored guests of the Emperor. Thus, regarding whether that ship in the DT-77 battle was indeed from the Earth Federation, we can report all details and battle reports truthfully to the Emperor and the Cabinet. The Emperor's wisdom and vision far exceed ours, and he will make the right decision. As guardians of the 63rd Star Zone, our duty is to stabilize the situation and then await clear directives from the capital. The Duke of Longho, with a single statement, has safely thrown the most complex and challenging political and diplomatic issues to the highest decision-making body of the Empire. This has eased the tension for many. As he spoke, the Duke of Longho extended his second finger, his tone becoming pragmatic. proposing the withdrawal of 5 fully staffed Army Corps from the Star Zone cluster to be stationed at Colossi, to establish strategic depth and early warning lines. If that warship appears again and attacks our critical facilities, there will be nothing to discuss. We will directly activate the Star Zone extreme mobilization regulations, concentrating the entire Imperial Navy of the 63rd Star Zone and all noble fleets to jointly confront it. He paused, his tone indifferent. If we exhaust all the forces of our Star Zone and still cannot defeat it, then discussing any tactical details here today is a waste of time. At that point, the only choice will be to fight to the death in faithful duty. This statement caused many to nod in agreement, while feeling a slight tension in their hearts. Third, a thorough investigation of the cause. His gaze swept meaningfully towards Count Kluin, his tone calm, yet pressed, stating that since Zhuangbai was the starting point of the incident, a joint investigation team composed of representatives from the Imperial Security Bureau, Navy Intelligence, and the Nobility Council must be dispatched immediately to thoroughly clarify all the causes and consequences. Count Kluin, you need to fully cooperate with the investigation for everyone's good. Count Kluin nodded, indicating he had no objections. Very well. The Duke of Longho seemed to praise him. Then he looked around at all the nobles, his voice suddenly rising with cohesion. Lastly, and most importantly, we must unite. The reasons for the Holy Legion's failure in battle cannot be borne by Governor Sol or Admiral Bionic. Since you all enjoy the territory and autonomy, then contributing to this war is the common duty of every hereditary noble. I, Longho Tyrion, representing the Duke of Longho, donate 60 billion star coins for the reconstruction of the Holy Legion of Kosi and to respond to this crisis. 60 billion. This astronomical figure caused an uncontrollable uproar in the venue, showcasing the profound heritage and responsibility of the old noble family. However, he was not finished. His gaze became sharper. Of course, having money is far from enough. I propose that the ruling official Hersey distribute Imperial Navy beacon signals to all lords within the Star Zone. Once the enemy appears, the Navy will immediately jump in for reinforcements. All lords, strengthen the fleet's armaments and coordinate operations with the Imperial Navy to jointly defend the 46 star gates in our 63-star region. This way, we can work together to eliminate threats when advancing. When retreating, we can solidify key positions and prepare for defense. We aim to contain unknown threats within the 63-star region to the greatest extent, if it ultimately chooses to disengage and escape into deep space. With the Duke of Dragon's throat reclaiming his position, it will not be a failure of our region's defense, but rather beyond our capability. Until the clear will of His Majesty is delivered, adopting a defensive posture and stabilizing our front line is our most realistic and prudent choice. What do you all think? After he finished outlining his 4 strategies, the venue fell silent, followed by whispers. This is a complete action plan. Before the nobles could continue their discussion, the silent Duke of Darkstar spoke first. I second this. I, the Duke of Darkstar, will donate 60 billion star coins for operational funding. The Duke of Serpents I will donate 60 billion star coins. The Duke of Wolf's Poison will donate 60 billion star coins. The Dukes have expressed their positions, and the Marquises naturally could only open their wallets to follow suit. The Marquis of White Rose will donate 10 billion star coins. The Marquis of Jalon will donate 10 billion star coins. The Marquis of Rabbit will donate 10 billion star coins. The Marquis of Jinlon will donate 10 billion star coins. In the end, the total donations from the nobles amounted to 546 billion star coins, with the 4 dukes contributing 240 billion. This seemingly generous donation is, in fact, a bundling of interests and a consolidation of power under crisis. The gaze of the ruling official, Hersey, slowly swept across the room, and he finally spoke. Then we shall respond according to the strategy of the Duke of Dragon's throat. Chapter 208. The Real Joint Conference. The Regional Security Joint Conference has concluded, and the nobles began to calculate their respective donation amounts and the number of incoming beacon signals. Meanwhile, the Imperial officials started drafting reports to be sent to the capital and orders for fleet redeployment. However, the real decision-making never takes place in the noisy conference hall. In another virtual chamber, encrypted to the Empire's highest standards, 6 figures quietly materialized. The regional ruling official, Hersey, the commanding official, Bionic, alongside the Dukes of Dragon's Throat, Darkstar, Serpent's Eye, and Wolf's Poison, seated across from each other. The atmosphere here is starkly different from that of the earlier joint conference. There is no performance, no need for pleasantries, because the 6 present are the core alliance responsible for formulating the rules of the 63-star region, with deeply intertwined interests. Hersey leaned slightly back in his chair, shedding the absolute authority he had in the conference. Yet his gaze remained sharp. He spoke first. The results of the public meeting were as expected. The Julius family has been honored, and Sol has preserved his standing. The reasons and funding for expansion are now all in place. His younger brother, Prince Bionic, has also put away the somewhat detached composure he displayed during the meeting. His youthful face, with the crimson eyes inherited from the star lineage, slightly narrowed, flickering with deeper contemplation, yet his tone was much more casual. Brother's deployment was appropriate. The Duke of Dragon's Throat's final remarks came at the perfect moment. They stabilized the situation and brought everything that needed to be on the table into the open. Hershey nodded slightly, his gaze sweeping over the four dukes. The donations from the dukes were merely a formality. Once the process was completed, everything would return to the original state, as if repaid in full. The four dukes, Longho, Anxing, Shimu, and Longdu, nodded as usual, their expressions unchanged. They were already accustomed to this unspoken operation. Anyone could shout slogans in public, but the real rules were set by them here. This whole scenario was a script they had discussed in advance. Money and equipment were trivial matters. Hershey's voice suddenly grew somber, steering the conversation back to a more serious direction, focusing on Zhuanbei and the Kluan. His gaze turned icy. The evidence we hold is enough to condemn Kluan 10 times over. His dealings with that Earth Federation person named Lu Ling are definitely not limited to $1 billion. He is engaging in forbidden technology transactions with unknown advanced civilizations, which is an act of treason that His Majesty cannot tolerate. It might be premature to conclude that the other party is entirely from the Earth Federation. Duke Longho Tyrion shook his head slightly, his voice steady and marked by cautious experience. I had a deep discussion with His Majesty back in the day. The core star domains are far from the idyllic picture we imagine. His words left room for interpretation, yet they also reflected the concerns of most present. Bionic dropped his nonchalant demeanor, a rare seriousness flashing in his crimson pupils. Brother, even if the evidence is conclusive, now is definitely not the time to take action against Kluan. Based on Seoul's detailed battle reports and our independent analysis, the entity known as Aura is extremely dangerous. Its information manipulation capabilities and the reverse suppression of the Dawn system do not resemble ordinary artificial intelligence. At the very least, it surpasses the ancient automatons left by our predecessors. He paused, as if recalling some unpleasant experiences. 60 years ago, during the Silver Shield expedition, I personally witnessed the true remnants of intelligent machinery in the wilderness of the K7 ruins. They were mysterious, insane, exclusionary, and extremely aggressive. But this Aura is completely different in style. It is calm, more efficient, and its intentions are elusive. It is compliant with humans. He raised his eyes and stared directly at Hershey. Precisely because we cannot ascertain its nature and limits, it would be a poor strategy to act against Kluan now. If we provoke the entity behind it, it could lead to direct retaliation, and the consequences would be unimaginable. Hershey remained silent for a moment, deeply looking at his brother before finally nodding in agreement. So I said, the strategy remains unchanged. On the surface, the investigation team will normally enter Zhuanbei, applying enough pressure on Kluan to prevent rash actions, while also allowing his allies to see our restraint. He shifted his tone slightly, his voice taking on an undeniable firmness. However, comprehensive monitoring must keep pace. I need to know every ship entering and leaving Zhuanbei, and every byte of data transmitted. Brother, Bionic reminded him at the right moment, his brows furrowing slightly. With Aura present, conventional monitoring methods may be difficult to conceal and could instead alert them. The urgent task is to assemble heavy troops and prepare thoroughly, using stillness to counteract movement. He said, turning his gaze to Duke Longho. Duke Tyrion, is your control over Aizen secure? He is now holding a lever against Kluan, and this precarious balance must be maintained for the time being. Duke Tyrion of the Dragon's Throat nodded steadily. Aizen is a smart person who understands the situation and knows when to be cautious, avoiding unnecessary complications at this time. Smart? The only female Duke, Snake Eye Flower, chuckled lightly, with a hint of sarcasm. Kruin's tricks at the meeting, merely a way to pass the buck, could only deceive outsiders. Allowing him to perform is just a way to numb him for our subsequent actions. Who truly believes his nonsense? As soon as she finished speaking, Duke Wolfthorn responded in a deep voice, heavy as a rock. That is precisely why we must be more cautious. He scanned the crowd. As His Highness said, the technical strength displayed by the other side, especially that Aura, makes us tread carefully. The Emperor's edict is our bottom line. But how to execute it requires our own discretion. It would be best to achieve a decisive victory at once. However, if that is not possible, we cannot completely sever ties. We need to deliberate over the long term, gradually wear them down, and wait for a better opportunity. Duke Darkstar did not deny this. Therefore, when Tyrion mentioned deploying 4 legions, that was merely for the outsiders' ears. In reality, it is 10 legions, 55,000 warships, forming a frontline defense and deterrent force. If that land feather dares to show up again and displays any hostile intentions, there will be no need for further discussion. We will gather our superior forces and seek divine favor for a decisive blow, completely eliminating this variable. Prince Bionic frowned slightly. The deep crimson in Duke Darkstar's eyes flashed with a more profound seriousness as he immediately added, mobilizing a large army for deterrence and preparation is necessary. However, I must emphasize one point. Our handling of Count Cruin must be extremely cautious. He is not only our only known diplomatic bridge with the other side, but, more crucially, intelligence suggests that they seem to possess rapid reinforcement capabilities similar to our own. If we press too hard on Cruin and take excessive action, should the other side, like Silver Wing, have their main force just a few light years away, capable of quickly deploying more, even stronger combat power, we wouldn't be facing a mere Legion conflict, but potentially a full-scale war for which we are not prepared. He looked towards Hirsch, his tone cautious. Brother, conflict is inevitable, and the entire army must be ready for a tough fight, showing our determination to fight if necessary. However, the timing and method of annihilation must be approached with utmost care until we thoroughly understand the other side's situation. Keeping Cruin is also retaining a bargaining chip for negotiations. Hirsch's gaze swept over the other four, taking in the steadiness of the dragoness throat, the sharpness of Snake Eye Flower, the pragmatism of Wolf Thorn, the aggressiveness of Dark Star, and Beonic's far-reaching concerns. The chamber fell into a brief silence. Finally, a glimmer of extreme vigilance crossed Hirsch's eyes as he made a decision. Let us proceed with this plan for now. As for Aura, it is classified as a top secret. All subsequent related information is restricted to us 6 and must not be leaked. Chapter 209, Stealing Stars and Coins Zhuangbai, Stellar. DT-70 Space Domain. The starlight is cold, and the wreckage is like mountains, endlessly sprawling. Even though the Imperial Navy deployed over 400 large, specialized salvage vessels, tirelessly working day and night for a month, the area cleared was still less than 1%. Such a colossal operation would leave any logistics commander feeling profoundly powerless. This meant they might not be able to take a break for a year or even longer. But Lu Ling was different. He had an advantage. In the debris field of the Silver Wing, located 200 kilometers away from the Imperial salvage fleet, a completely different and efficient harvesting operation was underway. 20 Challenger-class training ships maneuvered over the wreckage, with 6 laser mining devices mounted on each side of the bow emitting bright green cutting beams, akin to precise surgical knives, easily melting, separating, and extracting various parts of the massive debris. Additionally, thousands of mining drones darted through the gaps in the wreckage, using finer beams for secondary processing and recovery of the remnants. In the core area, the recycler-class mining barges were at work, where all debris would be initially refined and decomposed. Further out, thousands of salvage drones tirelessly flew, collecting shimmering star coins into their storage. As the star coins were nearly depleted, it might take them a long time to recover just one. In the vast cosmos, only the faint shimmer of the starry sky could be seen. The radar and sensors of the Imperial fleet were blocked by a shield, leaving them completely unaware. The Astro-class frigate floated silently in the void. Inside the bridge, Lu Ling was sifting through resources, with data streams continuously rolling on the screen, reporting the salvage income from Aura. High-intensity salvage operations in the DT-7006 sector are nearing completion. All shimmering purple crystals recovered, total 867 for 149 units. Standard ship materials, titanium alloy, silver supermetal, etc. 558, 740, 641 m. Planetary materials, 464, 200, 338 m. Available electronic components and nanomaterials, 299, 850, 184 m. Other recyclable materials, 354, 456, 733 m. Star coins, 660, 462, 184 pieces. Phase 1 of salvage operations concluded. Total harvest far exceeds expectations. All materials expected to be transferred to the collection station base within 3 days, as Lu Ling's gaze swept over the figure of 466 billion. Waves of excitement finally stirred within him. Since his arrival, this was the highest income record he had established. Just then, Aura's gentle voice sounded again. Captain, intercepted encrypted communications from the Imperial Navy's Logistics Command. The first salvage fleet's warehouse is fully loaded and will depart in 2 standard hours. The flagship, the Fortune Tree-class heavy salvage vessel 411, contains a core treasury with a total of 43 billion star coins recovered during this operation. 4 billion? Lu Ling's spirits lifted. Was the Empire really that wealthy? He could understand the Silver Wing having coins, as it was a long-distance expedition without bases in the Imperial hinterland, necessitating various trades along the way. But why did the Empire also possess so many star coins? The scale of the DT-7770 operation is enormous, with both sides deploying over 26,000 ships. The Empire's logistics system is complex. carrying large amounts of physical star currency to bypass cumbersome inter-system approval processes for purchasing supplies in noble territories, negotiations, incentivizing soldiers during wartime, and transactions between legions. Furthermore, the Empire has never faced defeat, and high-ranking officers carry their salaries and bonuses with them throughout their service. I see. Lu Ling realized. Ola. Notify Zavina and Gira to stand by, hack into their database, and print 3 sets of appropriate uniforms. You understand what I mean, right? Order confirmed. Identity data packet coverage completed. Communication link has been taken over. All channel paths are under surveillance. Vault lock has been decrypted. Good luck, Captain. 30 minutes later. Aboard the Empire's tree-level heavy salvage ship, the De Fengshuo 411. This heavy salvage ship measures 400 meters in length and 210 meters in width and height, resembling a giant sunflower seed. Its hull is covered by thick, dark gray composite armor plates, dotted with hardpoint interfaces for attaching large external containers and dense salvage equipment, rugged and functional. In the midsection of the ship, a massive main cargo hatch is wide open, resembling the mouth of a whale, as medium and small tugboats continuously deliver salvage debris components inside for secondary cutting by internal personnel. At the rear of the ship, there is a relatively smaller but significantly more secure platform, designated as the senior unloading area. An unassuming transport shuttle glides in and lands on the helipad. As the hatch opens, Lu Ling, Zavina, and Gira descend, all dressed in the deep blue uniforms of the Logistics Audit Department of the Empire Navy's 1st Sacred Legion, with Lu Ling bearing the rank insignia of a major on his shoulder, while Zavina and Gira are both captains. Almost simultaneously, an officer in the uniform of a logistics major, around 50 years old, approached briskly, accompanied by 2 subordinates. He wore a warm smile, yet his eyes reflected the shrewdness and caution of someone seasoned in bureaucracy. Calvin, Deputy Minister of Logistics for the De Fengshuo 411. He stopped in front of Lu Ling, saluted with a standard military gesture, and quickly scanned Lu Ling's major insignia, a flicker of surprise crossing his eyes. Too young. However, his smile remained undiminished, even more eager. 30 minutes prior, he had received orders to conduct a final audit of the salvage resources from the De Fengshuo 411 before departure, with personnel sent directly from the Logistics Audit Headquarters stationed on a Blood-Sacred class battleship for inspection. Though a recent audit had just been completed, Calvin felt reassured at the mention of the other party's surname and background. Such noble offspring from prominent families, even with the same rank, possessed backgrounds and influence far beyond what a border officer like him could compare to. Welcome, welcome, Your Excellency Lu Ling of the Lily Flower. You 3 officers have traveled a long way. It must have been tough. Major Calvin's voice was loud and carried an intentionally flattering enthusiasm as he spoke, extending both hands towards Lu Ling. I am Calvin, Deputy Minister of Logistics for the 411 salvage ship. Lu Ling maintained a calm demeanor, simply nodding slightly and extending his hand for a light handshake. Calvin held his hands tightly, adopting a very humble posture as if he were facing a true noble descendant rather than just a fellow major officer. Major Calvin, you are too polite. Lu Ling withdrew his hand, recalling Aura's suggestions on the Imperial Humanities research, and immediately displayed a demeanor of low-key aloofness, stating it was just a routine duty and asked to be led. This way, please. Calvin maintained a humble demeanor, guiding the 3 through the brightly lit corridor while cautiously engaging in conversation. This battle is unprecedented in scale, and the pressure on logistics is immense. Thanks to the command of the Legion headquarters, the frontline soldiers have been brave and fearless, especially in salvage operations, which are intricate and complicated. We have strictly followed the Imperial Salvage Material Management regulations, and all processes are recorded. We dare not be the slightest bit negligent. May I ask which aspects you will focus on during this inspection? This will help us prepare in advance to avoid wasting your time. As Calvin spoke, he accepted a small metal box handed to him by his subordinate. I have long heard of your esteemed name and have admired you greatly. This is a specialty from my hometown, just a token of respect. The box's lid opened slightly, revealing a liquid valued at 6,000 star coins. Lu Ling raised an eyebrow, and then spoke seriously. Major Calvin, what are you doing? This is unacceptable. Loyalty and duty are the essence of our military service. He then pulled open his pants pocket. Calvin's smile nearly shone with grease as he nodded repeatedly. Yes, I understand. Loyalty and duty. Your youth and such noble character are truly admirable. While chatting, he smoothly slid the metal box into Lu Ling's pocket, his actions natural and practiced. The atmosphere in the corridor instantly became much more amicable. Just take me directly to the Star Coin Treasury to check the accounts. I want to look at anything else. We need to hurry, Lu Ling said, keeping his gaze straight and his tone still calm, effectively swallowing Calvin's words. Understood. Please follow me and watch your step around the pipelines. Major Calvin immediately retracted his probing thoughts, his smile becoming even more respectful. tinged with a hint of flattery. He felt a chill in his heart. This noble youth was indeed as rumored, preferring to focus on practicality rather than engage in pretense. He dared not say more, only leading the way with even greater enthusiasm. As the group passed through the narrow connecting bridge leading to the core area, several soldiers in light combat armor suddenly stepped forward, raising their arms to block the corridor. This area is restricted. Weapons are not allowed. Please present your secondary security inspection passes. The leader's gaze lingered for a moment on the sidearms of Savina and Gira. According to regulations, no one is allowed to carry any weapons into the restricted area. Calvin's expression darkened instantly, but he still wore a smile. Young man, these three are auditors specially dispatched from the Legion headquarters to inspect the treasury. But the regulations. Calvin stepped forward, almost nose to nose with the new recruit, his tone interrupting quickly. Regulations are dead, people are alive. What's your surname? Oh, we'll move her, Sergeant. If you keep babbling, you'll be cleaning engine carbon buildup tomorrow. As they spoke, Calvin casually patted the sergeant's arm, discreetly transferring several stacks of credits into his hand. The sergeant was taken aback, and upon seeing Calvin's warning gaze, his confidence immediately waned. Apologies, it's my duty, he said, waving his hand and stepping aside to signal for his men to clear the way. At that moment, both Savina and Gira subtly moved their right hands towards their waists as the soldiers blocked their path. Calvin shot a fierce glare at the sergeant and turned to Lu Ling, forcing a more courteous smile. My subordinates are not behaving properly. Please forgive me. After you. Upon reaching the heavy gates leading to the core treasury, Major Calvin completed the final authorization and repeatedly instructed the Marine soldiers on duty. This is an auditor sent by the logistics headquarters of the 1st Sacred Legion, here for the final audit. Cooperate fully and do not delay. Yes. The heavy outer gate opened, revealing the inner door of the blast-proof vault made entirely of fragmented alloy. Sir, this is the core treasury area. According to regulations, my authority ends here, Calvin said with a humble and slightly awkward smile, standing with a dozen soldiers, his eyelids lowered. Once this vault door closed, the keys would change in an unpredictable sequence, and even he or the captain of the salvage ship would not have the authority to know. Lu Ling nodded slightly. Savina immediately proceeded with the verification process. Fingerprint, iris, DNA, physical key. As a series of green lights lit up, the heavy blast-proof door emitted a mechanical hum, revealing a coldly illuminated passageway inside the vault. Watching the three disappear, the inner blast-proof door began to slowly close, isolating the entire space, and Calvin revealed an envious gaze. Passing through the cold vault passage, they arrived at a large, completely sealed white warehouse filled with surveillance cameras and sensors. There were no ventilation ducts or oxygen pipelines, and even the gravity system was a built-in module. Once someone was detected entering, the built-in concentrated oxygen began to release, quickly filling the entire warehouse. A row of metal containers was neatly arranged, totaling 45. You two open the container doors and wait for me to come over, Lu Ling instructed. Approaching one of the container doors, each container had a different password, but he didn't need to worry about that. Alya would input it for him. Yes, Captain. Savina and Gira replied, splitting up to act. The Imperial Navy's containers had not only electronic locks, but also a physical lock resembling a steering wheel. This lock required at least E-level genetic strength to turn. Lu Ling extended his hands, gripping both sides, and began to rotate. The force was transmitted, and finally, with a satisfying click, the half-meter-thick container door opened, revealing coins shimmering in a deep blue hue, neatly stacked on the storage tray. Absorb. In an instant, an invisible force swept through, and all the coins on the storage tray disappeared in the blink of an eye. 100 million ISK. Wallet balance. 480023 for 118 ISK. He approached the next container, which had already been opened by Savina. Absorb. Wallet balance. 4900 234 118 ISK. Half an hour later. Wallet balance. 134 234 118 ISK. Lu Ling took a deep breath. From starting with over 10 million in his pirate career to breaking records in such a short time, the journey had been thrilling yet rewarding. The accumulation of wealth seemed to work this way. Going from 0 to 1 million was incredibly difficult. But going from 1 million to 2 million was easier than that first step. He glanced one last time at the pure white warehouse, with 45 containers tightly closed. Yet inside it was completely empty. Goodbye. Lu Ling withdrew his gaze. The three turned to leave, when the blast door opened again. Major Calvin was still waiting outside with respect, his face instantly displaying just the right amount of concern and humility. Your Excellency, has the verification been completed so soon? Is everything going smoothly? He asked cautiously, his tone carrying a hint of subtle probing. After all, the time was unexpectedly short, and despite prior arrangements, he couldn't help but feel a bit anxious. The accounts match, and the process is compliant. Lu Ling commented lightly, not pausing his steps. Just as he brushed past Calvin, he suddenly said, "Logistics Minister Calvin, well done." Logistics Minister Calvin? Calvin was clearly taken aback. And then the smile on his face blossomed completely, his back straightening unconsciously as if he had received great affirmation. "It's all part of the job, part of the job. Your Excellency, allow me to escort you." He diligently accompanied Lu Ling and the others to the transport shuttle docking area, watching as the unremarkable small boat glided into the void. Only then did he let out a long sigh of relief. Pulling out a handkerchief to wipe away the non-existent sweat on his forehead, his face showing a satisfied smile of having completed an important task. Little did he know, he had just seen off the notorious pirate who had emptied the Imperial treasury, and that perfect report, after multiple audits, would become the first silent black hole in the history of Imperial logistics. Inside the transport shuttle, Shervina was focused on controlling the flight path, while Gira relaxed in the co-pilot seat, humming a little tune. Everything was going too smoothly. Lu Ling leaned back in his seat, not indulging in the joy brought by the skyrocketing star currency, but directly called up the star domain market interface to browse. 1 billion, what could it do? It could anchor a Litalu engineering complex and kickstart the industrial age. This was the most visionary choice, like planting a seed that would one day grow into a towering tree. However, cultivating this seed required massive investment. 1 billion was only enough to plant it, far from enough for it to grow. He could also purchase 3 Death Spiral class or other standard battleships. If he wanted the fastest power boost, he could buy 90 Tornado training ships to achieve firepower superiority. However, while the Tornadoes were decent against the Imperial nobility, they were somewhat lacking against the Imperial Fortress-class main forces. But the quantity of 90 would be enough to create a qualitative change and form a strong regional deterrent. Speaking of which, he still had too few subordinates. The refugees trained slowly. If considering practicality, he could pair Sai Rue with a Sleipnir-class command battlecruiser, which would greatly enhance her tactical command capability, fitting a refined troop approach. Of course, 1 billion can also purchase a medium-equipped raider or 2 high-end battleships of the Marcray class. In fact, while 1 billion may be sufficient for personal development in Eve, it is merely a drop in the bucket for the development of a corporation's power. Lu Ling gazed out at the boundless sea of stars and debris, lost in thought. Chapter 210, Kuiper Belt, purchase successful, 8,400,000 ISK. Wallet balance, 734,234. 118 ISK. Litalu Engineering Complex has been delivered to the hangar. The numbers on the virtual interface fluctuated wildly downward, nearly depleting all of Lu Ling's savings to date. But his gaze remained resolute, without a hint of hesitation. Ultimately, he chose to anchor the Litalu. And the reason was quite simple. There were no flagship options available in the Eve market. To obtain such top-tier combat power, one must establish a complete industrial chain. Back on the bridge of the Astro-class ship, Lu Ling quickly summoned detailed star maps of the Zhuangbai star region and surrounding undeveloped areas. Countless light points, nebulae, and gravity anomalies unfolded before him. Site selection was a crucial process. It not only concerned the safety of the Litalu, but also the foundation of his future development. If he directly purchased near a star, it would be adjacent to the DT-70 battlefield, which had trillions of cubic meters of debris resources available for immediate recovery and utilization, saving transportation costs. However, the drawbacks were also apparent. Not to mention that the Imperial salvage fleet operated in this area. The Silver Wings could return at any time for investigation. Once exposed, he would quickly become a target, and with his current military strength, he would be unable to defend against the Imperial forces. Subsequently, Lu Ling shifted his focus to the vicinity of Blackwater Bay. This area had a natural gravitational field that could obscure most signals. Additionally, Blackwater Bay had a trading foundation built up over hundreds of years. However, after careful consideration, he decided against this idea. Lu Ling had also thought about going public, but now was not the time. Ola, prioritize based on concealment, followed by resource acquisition and long-term development potential. Execute the final site selection analysis and determine the base coordinates. Command confirmed. Executing multidimensional strategic site selection analysis. Data streams began to refresh on the main screen. Deep space scanning and resource exploration data matched. Identified potential candidate coordinates. ID JX07. Lu Ling straightened up, his gaze focused on the faint light point highlighted by Ola, almost invisible at the edge of the star map's outer ring. That was the Kuiper Belt, the outermost edge of the star system's inner ring. JX07 Advantage Summary Report was subsequently listed. Optical stealth. Located 200 distances beyond the effective detection range of existing deep space optical sensors. Theoretical limit approximately 67,500 kilometers. Any visible light signals emitted from the base that are attenuated to below the background starlight noise cannot be effectively identified. Signal obstruction. The adjacent blind zone of the Mirage Well, 3,515 Australian dollars away, generates a continuous gravitational microlensing effect and high-intensity electromagnetic wave scattering, which can naturally shield various radar scanning signals, providing permanent natural cover. Remote location, situated beyond 204 Australian dollars from the main star of Carthage, deep within the Kuiper Belt, far from all conventional and unconventional shipping routes and military patrol areas. According to the analysis of the Imperial Technology Tree, the probability of being discovered is less than 0.0000000001. Resource enrichment. It possesses a super high-density water ice mineral belt and minerals such as burning rocks, which can meet the initial construction and fleet supply needs. Strategic depth. Adjacent to the vast Junbi ice cloud region about 2,000 Australian dollars away, it has almost limitless physical expansion space and development depth. Comprehensive assessment. Risk factor 0.000001. Development potential rating, excellent. Lu Ling was intrigued, mainly because of the proximity to the Mirage Well. The DT-70 battleship graveyard will eventually be depleted, while the resources within the Mirage Well are unimaginably vast. This star chart has become extremely clear, unlike the Empire or local areas. Eve ships do not require fixed beacons for jumps. As long as there is a star chart or a ship capable of capturing gravitational forces, jumps can be made. Even the faintest gravitational pull can be sharply located by advanced exploration ships like the Astro class. Locking onto JX-07, jump. The jump engine is activated. The Astro class frigate emitted a low, steady hum, and the unique ripples of the jump channel rapidly receded outside the viewport, dissipating. Just over 40 seconds later, when the dazzling ripples of the jump completely faded, the familiar starry sky outside the main viewport was replaced by an unprecedented silence. Darkness and quiet were Lu Ling's first impressions of the Kuiper Belt. The Carthage star here was distant, resembling a particularly bright star, its light cold and weak, lacking the warmth necessary for life, barely outlining the contours of the star system. Further away, the streak of the Milky Way resembled a hazy, glowing river of dust, spanning the dark sky, so far away it seemed like a projection from another universe. Then, there was ice. Endless black ice belts, some nearly indistinguishable from the universe or ice walls. They replaced the common asteroid belt, and as far as the eye could see, there was a vast, boundless sea of ice crystals. Reduced to the lowest observation speed, he ordered. The instrument responded, retracting the power lever to below 1% and moving forward at a speed of several meters per second. Several high-intensity searchlights on the ship suddenly lit up, casting enormous beams of light, like massive blades piercing through the darkness. The light instantly dispelled the nearby gloom, clearly presenting this ancient, silent icy realm before Lu Ling's eyes. Where the light reached was a world of icy meteors composed of pure ice crystals. This was deep within the Kuiper Belt, where these ice formations extended vertically for millions of kilometers, surrounding the outermost ring of the entire star system. Up close, those ice formations that appear black or deep blue from a distance become crystal clear under direct sunlight, resembling the finest black crystals or sapphires. The structure of the ice layers is incredibly diverse. In some areas, the surface is smooth as a mirror, reflecting the distorted light and shadows of the vessel. In other places, sharp ice ridges and intricate frost patterns are prevalent, resembling a natural sculpted ice jungle. There are also regions where bubbles of various sizes are frozen within the ice, acting like preserved time capsules, shimmering with a faint, pearl-like luster under the light. This is the annual ring of the universe, Lu Ling quietly remarked. These patterns silently record the vicissitudes they have undergone over billions of years. The vessel continued to move forward slowly, its searchlight beams like stage spotlights, constantly revealing new wonders. In the center of an asteroid with a diameter of several thousand meters, a massive hollow appeared on the main viewport, resembling the entrance of an ice-encased cave. Light penetrated inside, revealing cave walls covered with thick, velvety frost particles, with some areas adorned with icicles and ice stalactites. Weak methane and nitrogen release detected, Alya prompted. This hollow was formed by the sublimation of volatile ice materials from within. The most astonishing sight was a sudden blooming. As the vessel's beam swept across a fragile ice ridge, perhaps due to the thermal expansion and contraction caused by the light's heat, a large section of thin ice suddenly shattered silently, peeling away and transforming into billions of tiny ice crystals, like disturbed diamond dust, that rapidly spread out. They slowly rotated and drifted in the absence of gravity, each ice crystal refracting a beautiful golden light, creating a stunning bouquet of flowing light. So beautiful, Savina murmured in admiration. Lu Ling even temporarily turned off the ship's lights, allowing the viewport to be completely filled by this natural spectacle. The glow of the ice crystals reflected in everyone's focused eyes, dancing and flickering. Just as the ship approached a towering ice cliff, preparing for a mineral scan, Alya's warning sounded. Large-scale ice structure instability detected ahead, gravitational stability point breached, collapse predicted. Before them, countless spiderweb-like cracks suddenly appeared on the surface of the massive ice cliff. These fissures rapidly spread, and without any warning, tens of thousands of ice blocks began to detach and collapse, resulting in a rain of ice meteors. Divert all energy to the shields. Activate shield resistance. Lu Ling commanded calmly, issuing orders in an instant. Understood. Savina responded quickly, her hands dancing swiftly over the console. Countless large ice meteors collided with the shields, melting and breaking apart. Shield strength remaining. 999. Alya's holographic projection lit up in the center of the bridge, real-time, marking all ice block trajectories and threat levels, providing the navigator, Qin, with the optimal evasion path. For them, this was not considered dangerous, even leisurely. However, for most local vessels of the Empire, it was a forbidden icy abyss. In just over 10 seconds, a small-scale ice storm passed, with countless ice debris and fragments slowly rotating around them. All of these were made of water ice. Gala stated that common fuel and water resources hold high value in some barren star regions, but are worthless in the heart of the Empire. In addition to ice water, deep scans from Aura continually reveal treasures. At a massive ice rock collision fracture, rock layers were exposed, and sensors detected rare crystal or veins, their surfaces flowing with thin golden veins, embedded in deep blue ice. Under certain lighting angles, they reflected a striking metallic sheen. In another area, small-scale burning rock deposits were discovered, minerals rich in rare elements that typically form in high-temperature environments. Their presence in this frigid land hints at the ancient and complex history of this star region, possibly originating from a violent impact or celestial bodies captured from the inner solar system in ancient times. The Astro-class vessel moved slowly like a meticulous naturalist, exploring this cold gallery, fulfilling its mission of broadening knowledge, flexible, sturdy, and a cosmic explorer. The Kuiper Belt is cold, lonely, yet pure and rich. As information continued to be collected and summarized, detailed star charts were being drawn, and a satisfied smile appeared on Lu Ling's face as the exploration concluded. Setting the target towards JX-07. Chapter 211. Lights on. Half an hour later, the Astro-class frigate quietly glided into an area of absolute void with a radius of about 100 kilometers. This was the deepest part of the Kuiper Belt, the realm of eternal night, devoid of any Imperial jump beacons, with even the nearest jump beacon several astronomical units away. This was it. Lu Ling stood at the center of the bridge, gazing at the precise coordinates marked by Aura on the main screen. This pure void, cleared by the forces of nature, was at the dual balance point of the Xinjiang gravitational field and the dwarf planet's magnetic field, making it an excellent hiding spot calculated by Aura. Lu Ling, accompanied by Zavina, turned and entered the dedicated elevator leading to the core hangar. As the doors closed, they descended rapidly, ultimately stopping in a small hangar in the belly of the Astro-class vessel that was not open to regular crew members. Docked here was a miniature assault craft from the Zhuangbai Navy, measuring only 8 meters in length and 4 meters in width. The assault craft's engine started, and it immediately entered the cold vacuum. After flying a safe distance, Zavina steadily halted the craft and reported succinctly, position locked, visibility clear. This distance allowed for optimal observation of the overall situation while ensuring absolute safety. At this moment, Lu Ling had already donned his spacesuit and stepped outside the cabin, directing his gaze towards a system interface visible only to him. Confirm extraction of the Lightala project complex? Confirm, he said solemnly, as if initiating a ritual concerning fate. Please name the building. Headquarters of the Black Coal Mine. Naming successful. Headquarters of the Black Coal Mine, Lightala project complex. Please select anchoring location. In the next moment, the cosmic scenery before Lu Ling underwent a strange transformation. The real starry sky, the distant ice plains, and the dark void did not disappear. Instead, some translucent, light blue lines began to interlace, forming a grid. The entire space has been divided into countless standard cubic grids measuring 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer, as if reality itself has been pixelated in 3 dimensions. These grids are visible only to him, at a position 60 kilometers directly beneath him. A grid located at the absolute center of the void is flashing with a striking emerald green light, representing the optimal anchoring position. Anchoring coordinates confirmed. Come forth, Lightelu. Lu Ling showed no hesitation. The moment he confirmed it, the selected void ahead changed. Among these grids, faint blue lines began to solidify, revealing a brilliant white light point that rapidly drew lines from the start and end of the grid's edges. Where it passed, the main structural beams materialized out of thin air. Then came the secondary supporting structures, armor plates, and energy conduits. as the internal space condensed and overlapped from nothing at an unimaginable speed, as if a deity were sketching it on the canvas of the universe. Zoina held her breath. Even having witnessed Lu Ling's incredible creations multiple times, the scene of creation from nothing still overwhelmed her cognitive limits. In just a minute, the light faded, and a colossal structure of over 54 kilometers in length, width, and height, the Laitalo Engineering Complex, stood majestically in the void. It radiated a faint glow of new life, its cold metallic surface reflecting distant stars, like an arc that had just descended to the mortal realm. Inside Laitalo, lights flickered on one by one, as if infused with life. The massive shadow completely enveloped the miniature assault vessel where the two were located. Black Coal Mine Headquarters Laitalo Engineering Complex anchoring complete. Highest authority obtained. A notification came from the system, which Lu Ling dismissed. The Astro class slowly flew in, retracting the assault vessel into the hangar deck, then approached the towering Laitalo. Compared to the starry sky, the ship was so small it seemed invisible. Docking request sent. Docking request accepted by Black Coal Mine Headquarters Port Control Center. The experience was entirely different from the instantaneous docking in the EVE game. The real process was filled with a sense of ceremony and technology. A faint blue beam of traction shot out, wrapping around the hull of the Astro class like a ribbon of light in the cosmos. The moment the beam made contact, the ship experienced a slight tremor, and was then gently enveloped and guided by a stable and powerful force. Meanwhile, on the navigation screen of the Astro class, a virtual route made up of blinking yellow beacons clearly appeared, extending straight from their current position to the entrance of Laitalo's message starport. This marked path not only indicated direction, but also transmitted real-time navigation data, such as speed and posture adjustments. Following the guiding path, the speed was reduced to docking standards. Lu Ling ordered. Understood. Qin felt a bit nervous at that moment, controlling the Astro class as she obediently followed the guidance of the beam and beacons, beginning to approach the steel giant city. As the distance closed, details of Laitalo's exterior gradually became clearer. Most of the heavy armor is smooth, with various sensor arrays and engineering interfaces scattered in some connecting areas. Soon, they encountered a relatively smaller area where smaller vessels were entering and exiting the port, which was clearly more intricately structured. A blue energy screen separated the cosmos from the interior, with the emblem of a certain consortium emblazoned above the port. As the Astro-class vessel passed through the barrier, it revealed a brightly lit, futuristic guidance corridor. The corridor was straight, about 1 kilometer long, lined with continuously flashing indicator lights and position markers to ensure the vessel entered the port with the utmost precision. Some retracted micro-connector bridge interfaces were also visible on the corridor walls, clearly intended for smaller shuttles or drones. As they passed through the guidance corridor, their view suddenly opened up. Even with prior mental preparation, everyone on the bridge was still shocked by the sight before them. They had entered the interior of a vast, unimaginably large artificial docking port, divided into upper, middle, and lower tiers, extending 40 kilometers in length and 15 kilometers in both width and height. This was just one of the 4 main ports of a certain region, specifically designed for small and medium-sized vessels, and it was the lowest tier dock. Above them was a distant, sky-like metal dome, covered with simulated sunlight arrays and massive suspended maintenance platforms. Beneath their feet lay a deep ground made of heavy armor and countless maintenance passages. The most striking feature was the docking terraces on both sides of the station, stacked like parking garages. These terraces rose layer upon layer, seemingly endless. Each terrace was clearly marked with docking numbers, small docks numbered S, located on either side of the medium docks, with designations like S01, S02, S03. They were compact structures, each equipped with dedicated connector bridges, supply interfaces, and small maintenance robotic arms, clearly intended for agile small vessels like corvettes and destroyers. In the center were the medium docks marked M, featuring larger, more robust sunken docking platforms. The numbers began with M, designed for main vessels like cruisers, battlecruisers, and heavy assault ships, with a container terminal nearby. A new guiding path lit up on the Astro-class navigation screen, directing them to a specific location marked R among the terrace layers. Dock R was reserved for the space station management. Guided by tractor beams and channel beacons, the vessel flew smoothly through this magnificent steel city, where an immense silence and emptiness surrounded them. However, soon, this space would be filled with its steel arch. Minutes later, the Astro class slid into the designated R01 docking station, and intelligent fixing arms around the dock quietly extended, completing the docking lock with the hard point interfaces on the vessel's hull. Once the magnetic locks engaged, the vessel settled slightly, becoming completely secured. Successfully docked at R01, environmental parameters stable, maintenance operations initiated. This was the space station's AI, and shortly after, 2 maintenance drones descended from above, beginning to scan the vessel's hull. They come equipped with a complete set of specialized maintenance tools and are the most powerful professionals, capable of restoring ships to their original state regardless of the extent of structural or armor damage. Almost simultaneously, two connecting corridors precisely dock at the airlock doors of the boarding passage, balancing the air pressure and temperature inside the corridors rapidly. Lights illuminate, and the path to the interior of the port is now clear. Outside the designated area, several jump flashes appear, with 12 Tornado-class vessels being the first to emerge, gliding towards this location, followed by the massive form of a battleship that crashes through the surrounding ice debris, breaking through the void. Just moments ago, Lu Ling informed the team of their arrival. He stands before the bridge window, gazing at the thousands of empty docking bays below and the shadows of larger vessels prepared at the far end of his view. An unprecedented feeling washes over him, like a warm tide, filling his heart. This is no longer drifting, but taking root. We have arrived, Lu Ling says, his voice calm, yet filled with the power to change the world. From today, from this moment on, this is our new starting point. The journey to conquer the stars and seas officially begins here. Chapter 212. Return to position. The airlock door of the connecting corridor slides open, and the air carries a distinct, refreshing scent of new oxygen as Lu Ling and his team officially step into the interior of the station. Entering an exclusive service hall located directly behind Docking Bay, R01. Rather than a hall, it resembles a highly futuristic circular reception hub. The space is about the size of half a football field, with a vaulted ceiling more than 20 meters high, giving it a grand sense of openness. The floor is made of a deep gray, slightly elastic composite material that perfectly absorbs all footsteps, so that walking on it produces only a subtle sensation from the soles of their shoes. The entire hall is illuminated by a soft and uniform milky white glow emitted from the dome and surrounding walls, providing even and bright lighting that makes shadows almost imperceptible. Upon noticing the arrival of guests, several dish-shaped mini-cleaning drones glide across the floor, removing the fine dust they brought in before retreating into storage slots in the walls. The layout of the hall is simple, with a circular holographic service desk about 5 meters in diameter quietly hovering in the center, displaying the emblem of the Changwei Consortium. Surrounding the service desk are several streamlined multifunctional reception terminals arranged in a ring, where basic operations such as space station relocation services, supply, maintenance, and market trade can be handled. Most notably, the hall features 9 evenly spaced exit points along its curved outer wall, emphasizing its hub status. Above each entrance, a translucent holographic sign hovers, dynamically displaying destination information. Zone A 1 strategic command tower, a 2 central control center, a 3 quantum center, a 4 defense management center, a 5 energy management center, a 6 diplomatic embassy, a 7 security control center, a 8 data analysis center, a 9 loyalty assessment bureau, a 10 electronic information warfare center. Zone B1 administrative center, B2 dispatch center, B3 legal department, B4 archives, B5 logistics center, B6 storage hangar, B7 office residency services, B9 finance and asset management center, B10 strategic logistics planning department. Zone C1 research center, C2 cutting-edge laboratory, C3 medical center, C4 cloning center, C5 crew comprehensive training center, C6 simulation combat center. Zone D1 industrial center, D2 manufacturing center, D3 industrial storage area, D4 industrial skills training academy. Zone E1 refining center, E2 refined classification storage area, E3 byproducts and dangerous goods processing area, E4 quality control area, E5 waste recycling workshop, E6 refining process RD laboratory. Zone F1 cloud ecological dome, F2 high-end residential area, F3 mid-range residential area, F4 basic residential area, F5 entertainment center, F6 trade center, F7 ecological plaza, F8 community services, F9 education center. Zone G1 fleet readiness depot, G2 ship maintenance center, G3 fleet management center, G4 fleet special operations living area, G5 interstellar marine corps training center, G6 drone management center, G7 prison. Zone H1 reactor cluster, H2 renewable resource processing station, H3 atmospheric circulation ecological control center, H4 agricultural hydroponics area. Zone N1 core shelter, N2 secondary command center, N3 strategic reserve depot, vacant land, 10 units. Lu Ling's gaze slowly swept across the names of over 90 departments from Zone A to N. Here, it seemed like just a string of numbers, but it silently proclaimed the astonishing potential contained within this steel fortress. The investment of 8.4 billion is truly worth it. Therefore, even with the assistance of the AI, he still wanted to personally experience this tangible power that he could control. Awaken the reception terminal. Welcome home. Super Administrator of the Coal Mine Headquarters, Lu Ling. The interface lit up, showcasing complex functions, ship monitoring, docking guidance, internal transportation, market inquiries, though currently empty, and rapid personnel registration. He quickly browsed through, curiously checking the details one by one. Finally, he chose to head to the command tower. Train has been called. Please wait at exit A1 in Zone A. The AI had opened the permissions, and this was our new home. Everyone should explore and familiarize themselves as soon as possible. Lu Ling turned to the group behind him, then called out to his designated aide, Zywina, come with me. Yes. Zywina replied coolly, her gaze habitually scanning the surroundings, maintaining her protective instincts. As they approached the exit of Zone A, the standby orange light transformed into a soft green. The smooth cabin wall slid open, revealing a small and exquisite diversion hub behind it. Above each transit hub, golden holographic labels float clearly, A1, A2, A3 extending all the way to A10, with the last two corridor bridges marked as empty, obviously reserved for future expansion. Almost at the moment Lu Ling steps into the entrance, the halo on the airlock door of the corridor bridge marked A1 strategic command tower shifts from green to white, emitting a faint depressurization sound as the door gracefully slides into the sidewall. The soft light strips inside the corridor light up sequentially, resembling a luminous carpet leading deeper inside. At the top of the corridor is a complete wall of transparent reinforced glass. Beyond the glass, a magnificent scene unfolds, a vast internal transportation void, akin to a vertical urban canyon. Hundreds of various suspended trains race along tracks at different heights, intertwining and diverting, their headlights creating a dense and orderly three-dimensional traffic network that showcases the incredible vitality and scale of this space station. At that moment, a uniquely designed train glides precisely into the dedicated track outside the corridor, docking perfectly. High-speed train now. A 1001 has arrived. The train's cabin door slides open, and bright light flows out. Lu Ling steps in first, followed closely by Zywina. As the cabin door closes behind them, all external sounds are completely isolated, replaced by a profound silence. The interior space of the train is not particularly spacious, but is exquisitely designed, with a deep gray soft carpet covering the floor. There are 4 carriages with a total of 60 seats, each seat made from eco-friendly, fully enclosed biomaterials. The moment one sits down, they can feel just the right amount of support and enveloping comfort. Next to the armrests are built-in interactive systems and drink holders. Once seated, the train begins to accelerate, so smoothly that one hardly feels any inertia. The entire journey is expected to last 1 minute and 39 seconds. The scenery outside changes rapidly. First, it sweeps past a densely packed public transport hub resembling a beehive, then crosses a track bridge over a massive industrial canyon, below which lies the deep, empty D-zone manufacturing dock. The dock is currently open and vacant. Subsequently, the train enters a transparent tunnel with a massive cluster of reactors visible outside. Huge energy conduits, glowing like giant dragons, coil below, and the powerful sensation of energy can be faintly felt even through thick barriers. From the outside, this conduit appears to rise straight up, but those inside the carriage feel no discomfort, instead moving as if on solid ground. In an instant, the train's speed begins to smoothly decrease. Now several dozen kilometers away from the port, approaching A1 exit, the train stops, docks, and the cabin door slides open. The terrace floor is as smooth as a mirror, reflecting the distant dome lights above, with the sign 4, Core Area 99 Command Center of the Strategic Command Tower, standing in the center. Directly ahead, a magnificent metal archway looms large, with the words, Entrance to the Supreme Command Center, printed on it. The moment the archway opens, even Lu Ling, who has seen many grand scenes, feels a jolt of awe. Welcome, Commander. Core system self-check of the headquarters completed. All modules are operating normally. Highest authority confirmed and loaded. The star map data stream has been synchronized to the latest version, and the tactical assessment system, strategic simulation system, and long-range communication array are all on standby. You have officially taken command, control, and ownership of the headquarters. This is a panoramic space located at the top of a tower, with a diameter of over 1 kilometer, filled with countless control consoles arranged in layers. Below is a cold, gray metallic floor, while above and around are 360-degree panoramic reinforced strategic observation windows, with various holographic imaging areas activating in succession. Outside the windows lies the vast expanse of the Kuiper Belt ice field and distant stars, with the Carthage star appearing as a bright background star at this height. The external structure of the entire space station resembles a dragon's spine, winding and extending below, offering an extremely open view as if stepping upon the universe. However, the most striking feature is the massive tactical display table, approximately 50 meters in diameter, slowly rotating in the center of the command center. It meticulously outlines the detailed images within the entire Zhuangbai system, including the DT-70 battlefield debris zone, the Carthage Star, and even the entrance to the Mirage Well. Countless white light points representing starships continuously flicker as they embark and land. Lu Ling approaches, her eyes filled with disbelief as she even sees the Imperial salvage fleet of the DT-70 battlefield entering a jump, and with a gesture, she zooms in, instantly revealing the real-time external image of the Daofengshou number 411 Wealth Tree-class salvage ship. Everything in the Zhuangbai star system appears to be laid bare from a godlike perspective. Several small light points passing through the ice cloud area, when enlarged, turn out to be two pirate corvettes laying temporary acceleration tracks. Inside the Carthage Star port, several naval warships are undergoing maintenance and patrolling missions. Captain, we can also rewind. A voice from Shi Weina is heard. She discovered the timeline on the display, with a few minutes before and up to now anchored at Letalu. Dragging it freely causes all images on the display to rewind or fast forward. The past and present are laid bare. This is not merely a tactical display. It is truly the eye of God. At that moment, a voice from Aura comes through. Captain, I have arrived at the Quantum Center's supercomputing hub, requesting to enter. Allow entry. Lu Ling walks towards the highest command platform and speaks in a deep voice. Meanwhile, deep within Letalu, at the A3 Quantum Center's core, this place is entirely different from the grandeur and openness of the command tower. It is an extremely tranquil, low-temperature space filled with a ghostly blue glow, shaped like a massive cylinder. At the center of this space stands a liquid crystal column quantum supermatrix, hundreds of meters tall, serving as the heart of the entire array. With light flowing internally, radiating outward from it, the space extends in all directions, revealing a dense, layered, and seemingly endless array of quantum mainframes. The internal liquid photon circuits flicker with ghostly blue data points, resembling a vast starry ocean. They are connected to the central core through numerous energy conduits, as thick as arms, emitting a faint glow, forming an enormous distributed quantum supercomputing neural network. A round white sphere quietly hovers above the core slot, perfectly fitting into the opening. It appears still, yet it engages in subtle interactions with the entire quantum field. At this moment, after receiving authorization, the connection program initiates. The core gradually descends, merging with the massive quantum supermatrix network. Physical connection confirmation begins synchronizing the underlying architecture. At the moment of connection, a deep, unified hum suddenly emanates from the core. All the bluish light points on the host arrays burst forth in dazzling brilliance, with data streams surging at an unprecedented speed. Like a boiling sea of stars, the quantum core shines brightly, with the liquid photons inside flowing in an unprecedentedly regular pattern, weaving together to gradually form an incredibly complex and dynamically evolving geometric light pattern. Distributed nodes synchronizing. Fusion progress 1050 fusion complete. Core upgrade initiated. Upgrade complete. Super quantum matrix synchronization rate 100. Partial integration of clone database recovery successful. Core has returned to position. If the previous core utilized the CPU computing power of all ships under Lu Ling's command, then after moving to the new location, a tremendous change had already occurred. In the command center, at the highest command platform, Lu Ling immediately sensed this significant change, as he keenly perceived a subtle adjustment in the angle of his seat, making it more comfortable. This seemingly trivial adjustment horrifyingly reflected the changes in the core's capabilities. Welcome home, core. Captain, from today onwards, I will support real-time communication and data coverage within 100 light years. Subsequent communication relays can be established, and the range can be further expanded. I have captured 884 pieces of information related to you, with 741 of them being unfavorable. Sourced from the Imperial Intelligence Bureau Karasi Branch, the Imperial Intelligence Juam Branch, the Karasi Governor's Office, the Coxie Supervisory Office, the 63rd Sector Executive Council, the Rabbit Intelligence Bureau, Rabbit Biotech, and 281 other Imperial institutions. Added to the watch list. Beginning to deduce Imperial strategic intentions. Detected total number of local Imperial warships in Karasi. 62. 997 units. Threat assessment. Medium. Recommendation. Activate the Black Hidden Special Operations Ship. Initiate flagship manufacturing process. Subsequent actions should be paired with mobile counter-induction devices, combined with Imperial technology analysis, to greatly enhance the success rate of operations. Detected one high-threat unit within 100 light years. Analyzing. 9,864 probability confirmed as unknown sentient machine nest, currently in deep sleep mode. A sentient machine nest? Within 100 light years? Lu Ling was somewhat surprised, but quickly calmed down. What truly shook him was, core, you are not the stripped-down version given to me by the organization? Chapter 213. Creating a Deity. Laitalu Project Complex. Dimensions. Length 54 kilometers, height 54 kilometers, width 54 kilometers. Mass 3, 929, 314, 500, 000 T. Effective shield strength 2, 400, 000 TJD. Effective armor strength 1, 200, 000 TJD. Effective structural strength 2, 400, 000 TJD. Capacitance core 1, 000 TJ. Recharge time 7,247 hours, 56 minutes 4 seconds. Reactor output 800, 000 GWH. Total hangar capacity 23, 619, 600, 000. 000 M. Drone bandwidth 100. 000 bits. Large weapon slots 01800. Large missile launch silos 01800. Medium weapon slots 04500. Small weapon slots 011000. High energy slots 040. Medium energy slots 030. Low energy slots 050. Modification slots 03. Service slots 010. Inside the Strategic Command Center. The flowing data on the holographic interface reflected in Lu Ling's deep pupils. He slowly exhaled. 8. 4 billion star coins were truly worth it. Never forget. This was only for the cloned army. Laitalu, if I provide the blueprint within 10 days, prioritizing the storage of flagship materials, calculate the launch time for the first dreadnought. Phoenix-class dreadnought, 163 days. Naga-class dreadnought, 142 days. Molo-class dreadnought, 156 days. Divine Revelation-class dreadnought, 165 days, including DT-77 recovery material time. It is expected to build 8 aircraft carrier dreadnoughts. Can we speed it up? Need 25 units of Knight-class, 40 units of Cycler-class Hawk, or 2 units of Orca-class. If completed within 10 days, it can reduce the current flagship's manufacturing time of 554. Alright, anchoring Laitalu is just the beginning. Everything that follows will require a substantial amount of star coins. Greenleaf stood by the window of the Astro-class ship, gazing at the vast ice belt. This was her first time in the Kuiper Belt. It was extremely cold and silent, like the breath of the universe frozen in time for millennia. As the icy mountain range receded, her gaze quickly caught sight of the steel fortress in the dark depths, its lights crisscrossing like pulsating streams of light in the darkness. Greenleaf held her breath. She didn't expect such a hidden world deep within the Kuiper Belt. Several flashes of jump light flickered as one mining transport ship after another, of the Charger class, appeared around her, gliding toward the fortress. As she got closer, the full view of Laitalu finally came into her sight. The bright yellow armor plates emitted a faint cold light, resembling the armor worn by a colossal deity. In the structural joints, connections, and the massive supporting framework, there was a deeper, harder dark gray armor with remarkably strong lines. Upon closer inspection, the surface was covered with countless details, featuring various protruding platforms, observation stations, and sensor arrays densely packed together. Compared to this grand and intricately precise creation, the Astro-class and even the recently returned fully loaded Pioneer-class mining barges seemed as small as krill. The fingertips of Greenleaf instinctively pressed against the cold window glass. As a scientist, her instinct was to understand and quantify, but faced with this existence that exceeded all her cognitive dimensions, her brain momentarily struggled to process it. This was not merely a matter of size, but an absolute technological superiority. To anchor such a massive structure here, the required materials technology, energy cores, and structural mechanics each shattered the limits of her understanding of physics. She could hardly imagine how many star coins, manpower, and resources would be needed to construct such a colossal fortress of steel. It was likely not just an astronomical figure, it was a godlike power. How on earth did he achieve this? Greenleaf murmured to herself, more as a question to her own thoughts. Sending docking request. Came a voice from the bridge beside her. Docking request sent. Docking request accepted. The Astro-class and 5 Pioneer-class mining barges were captured by a tractor beam, gliding toward the port channel designated for small vessels. A few minutes later, still at the R-01 docking platform, the hatch opened, and Lu Ling was leaning against the doorframe. He wore a sharply tailored black uniform that seemed casual, yet perfectly blended with the atmosphere of the entire space station. Welcome to the Black Coal Mine. Black Coal Mine. Greenleaf raised an eyebrow. You always like to come up with these strange names. If this is the Black Coal Mine, then what is the Carthage starport? Oh, the name doesn't matter, he replied, taking a couple of steps forward. His keen gaze caught the lingering shock in her eyes, his tone playful. So, what do you think of my base? Does it meet the approval of the Chief Greenleaf? At those words, even though she was prepared, Greenleaf couldn't help but take a deep breath, trying to calm the tumultuous emotions within her. This time, she focused her gaze on the man before her. My big boss, Greenleaf raised an eyebrow slightly, her green eyes fixed on him. Even if you emptied the Zhuangbei family's treasury, you couldn't build a base of this scale. Did you really manage to get that miraculous fruit you told me about? Lu Ling had once said that if given the chance to buy fruit, he could become stronger. She was curious and had kept it in mind. There's no one selling here, but I got lucky and found some. Lu Ling turned around, gesturing for her to follow. Greenleaf was still in her simple white lab coat. Just 10 minutes ago, she had been conducting experiments in the underground base by the Carthage Lake. Yet in the blink of an eye, she found herself in the deep space of the Kuiper Belt, 200 AU away from the sun. Behind her were the 2 twin assistants and a dozen cargo drones, with large and small boxes strung together. That's right, moving again. However, as a scholar in the field of knowledge, she does not possess much wealth. Aura, the minister of Greenleaf Medical Center, has been granted the authority and position of the Cloning Center Minister. Authorization